Volume 5, Chapter 243, Fourth Return Earth, Part 10. Minerva waved her arm at a giant monster as large as a giant itself. The wind transformed into a violent storm. Wu-Wang, the giant slammed down its arm, crushing the storm and causing it to burst outward. Minerva kicked off the ground, dodging the attack. Kuung, the ground burst open, scattering a tsunami of debris in all directions. He's strong. Are you all right? I'm fine, I'm fine. Even though he's strong, it's not to the point of worry. Woong, the monster's arm moved again. Just the act of swinging caused the wind to rise. Minerva rolled on the ground to evade. Pahing. The wind shot out like a cannon, colliding with the monster's arm. As the wind shattered, the arm was repelled. Barkaza clapped his hands towards the disheveled monster. Kiying, a rainbow beam was fired at the monster. It stabilized and opened its mouth. Kahyung, a beast-like howl spread, swallowing up the rainbow lights with its roar. Minerva and Barkaza, even fighting together, couldn't easily overcome this foe. They were among the top in Class A. Minerva grumbled as she lifted her body into the sky. Our master really, how much hatred is there? What do you plan to do, your majesty? Well, Minerva narrows her eyes, the monster was strong. It wasn't just physically powerful, but also possessed a formidable aura. Knocking it down easily was nearly impossible. If I draw out all my strength, I might be able to put it into a near-death state. But then I'd be summoned back. Minerva was the king of spirits. By her own power, she was far stronger than Taesan was now. However, she was currently summoned by Taesan, and her limited power was weaker than Taesan's. Compared to the monster, she wasn't significantly superior. Moreover, the reason Minerva was present here was due to the spirit god. Beatrice had acted as the agent for her descent, and that power was not permanent but consumable. The more she used it, the less time she could stay here. Let's take it slow for now. The monster slammed its arm down, sending wind spreading in all directions. Minerva flicked her finger. She took control of the wind generated by the monster's movement, concentrating and swirling it right below its arm, and she detonated it just before it reached her. Kuung, the monster was repelled. She was the king of wind spirits. The wind itself belongs to her. She didn't use her own power but manipulated the wind created by the monster to blow it away. Even if we manage to win, nothing changes, does it? That's true. The main actors are different. Barkaza clapped his hands. The monsters charging at them were defeated by a rainbow beam. Then let's enjoy this situation, tormenting these damn things. How delightful! Minerva smiled slyly and raised her hand. A small storm gathered there. The situation for the players in Seoul was dire. The majority of the monsters they faced were Class C or the lowest of Class B. Considering even hard mode players barely managed to defeat Class D, victory seemed virtually impossible, but they did not falter. Kim Hweon swung her weapon and shouted, "Shield roll to the front. Hard players fall back." Her command smoothly coordinated the players. Easy and normal players confronted the monsters while hard players pulled back to catch their breath. Crrrrunch. Cough, the easy and normal players who stepped forward vomited blood, but they did not die. Kim Hweon quickly shouted again. Hard mode players back to the front. Those who had retreated to recover their health with potions now stepped forward again, while easy and normal players staggered back. Seo Jangson, holding off the monsters, muttered, "This is a good method after all." Easy and normal mode players were not much use. Perhaps they were at the beginning, but by this point the gap between them and hard mode was too vast. Dozens of them together couldn't take down even one hard mode monster. The situation was even grimmer for the monsters. Easy and normal modes offered little advantage in combat. Thus, Kim Hweon devised a completely new strategy. They were safeguarded by the system. No matter the severity of the attack, they wouldn't perish as long as they retained some health. Under normal circumstances, they couldn't survive even a Class C attack and would perish instantly. However, Taesan had now established a domain through alchemy, a zone where monsters were weakened and humans were strengthened, including boosts to health and defense. Most easy and normal players had traded attack power and stats for heavily armored gear that enhanced their defense. It was a risky strategy, but they could survive at least one attack. Consequently, easy and normal modes assumed the role of shields. When hard mode players were fatigued or needed to consume potions, these players would step in to absorb the monster's attacks. Meanwhile, the rejuvenated hard mode players would return to the forefront. You've realized it too, they're of no use, all we can do is use them as our shields. No, Kim Hweon countered Seo Jangson's view. Everyone has their role, they understand and have embraced that. She didn't coerce them, assuming the shield role was fraught with danger. Although they wouldn't die from a single hit, the risk remained high. So she gave them the freedom to choose, and most of the easy and normal players agreed. They desired to contribute voluntarily. That was what set them apart from Seo Jangson's approach. Kang. Li Tian navigated through the monsters, her sword in hand. You have activated flow. The monster's attacks glided off her sword upon contact. She energized her legs. You have activated Strong Blow, Kagagagging. She timed her attack perfectly. Strong Blow was triggered multiple times, driving the monsters back. Kang Junhyuk exhibited similar prowess. He too darted among the monsters, vanquishing them one after another with his ability sword and dark magic. Both were undeniably formidable. With accumulated experience, they could now defeat Class C, but there were hundreds of monsters. They began to be overwhelmed. Potions were not infinite, and mana was also lacking. However, they did not give up hope. "Everyone hold on," Kim Hweon shouted desperately. "We can win!" Crack. Taesan stomped on a monster's head. The head was crushed. He leapt down, looking over. Hundreds of monsters were charging at Taesan. So many of them. Coldness gathered at Taesan's fingertips. "You have activated Frozen World." Crrrrunch. Extreme cold spread in all directions. The charging monsters froze and shattered. "You have activated Starlight Arrow." A light like the sun formed in Taesan's hand. He pulled back and shot at the charging monsters. Kuwang, light burst in the darkness. In an instant, hundreds of monsters disappeared. The monsters were nothing special. At most, they were from Class C to Class B level. Occasionally, the lowest of Class A appeared, but none were a threat to Taesan. He waved his arm towards the charging monsters. "You have activated Ember of Calamity." A flame exploded. A devastating conflagration swept away the monsters, but the darkness remained unchanged. Neither the light like the sun nor the flame that could destroy the world could dispel this darkness. "You have activated Apostle Transformation Myriad Souls." "You have activated King's Vessel." Thud, power descended on Taesan. The uncontrollable power was synchronized with the ring, making it Taesan's own. "You have activated Perfect Fairy Wings." Wings appeared on Taesan. Taesan flapped his wings. "You have activated Acceleration." He leaped upward, reaching the ceiling with extreme speed, concentrating all his strikes and power at the tip of his sword. Kaoyang, and he rebounded. Taesan flapped his wings to regain balance. Monster 10 takes 43 damage. The damage was minimal, insignificant. It was to be expected. Even if Taesan mustered all his strength, it couldn't compare to the power he wielded in his past life. The force shielding the monster was of a full S-class level. There was no way he could deal meaningful damage at this moment. "If only I had Essence Strike or Absolute Judgment." Essence Strike required a higher proficiency in essence perception, and Absolute Judgment was still beyond his reach. Taesan placed his hand on the ground. In the endless darkness, an irresistible force was palpable, and that force was gradually weakening. This monster existed solely to restrain Taesan. All the power it required for sustenance was directed inward, meaning it would slowly perish as time went on. Probably within a week, Taesan would be able to leave without any issues. The question was whether the outside world could withstand the weight. Minerva and Barkaza were out there, but the high gods were also aware of this situation. They would have surely prepared for it. "They aim not at me but at those around me." Clever strategy. Taesan clenched his fist. He focused mentally, maintained his sense of self, and manifested the darkness. "You have activated Darkness." Darkness spread in all directions. The monster's darkness began to waver when it collided with another darkness. The deeper darkness devoured the weaker one. Crrrrunch. The interior of the monster started to split. "Oh!" A ghost made a noise, but the spreading darkness abruptly halted. Taesan grimaced. Not enough. It wasn't a matter of quality. The blackness he wielded was of the high gods. There was no reason it should be inferior to that of an S-class monster. It was simply that he hadn't yet mastered the control of the blackness. The power, uncontrolled and scattering aimlessly, was insufficient to carve a passage. "What will you do?" "I'll have to search further." Taesan moved. Cough. A hard mode player who couldn't withstand the monster's onslaught fell. Kim Hweon, who moved too late to save him, realized he was already dead and gritted her teeth. "Easy and normal modes forward." Hweon, someone grabbed her shoulder. It was the man overseeing normal mode. Seeing his panicked expression, Kim Hweon realized the gravity of the situation. She bit her lip. "Available hard modes, please come forward." The easy and normal mode players had completely run out of health. They had been barely holding on with potions, but even those had run out. The remaining challenge was for only the hard mode players to survive, and that was nearly impossible. Eek! People started to fall one by one. Unable to watch any longer, easy and normal mode players stepped forward. But having no health from the start, they couldn't even properly perform their shield role. Lee Taeyeon and Kang Junhyuk might hold out, but both were fully engaged in blocking a Class B monster. The monster that had swallowed Taesan stood unflinchingly there. Monsters continued to emerge, and people kept falling. The situation was dire, but determination did not fade from their faces. "Hold on," they shout, holding on to their faith. "Taesan is watching over us." Even in the face of life-threatening danger, their faith in Taesan did not waver. It grew even stronger. They continued to fight, believing in Taesan. That belief kept growing. The proficiency of your divine power has increased by 1%. Taesan, who had been sprinting to find the end of the space, paused. As the proficiency of his divine power rose, a strange sensation enveloped his entire body. It was not simply power, but something more sublime that had taken residence in his body. Even the ghost seemed to feel it, asking in a surprised tone, "Something suddenly changed about you." "I feel it too," crack. Taesan crushed an approaching monster as he opened his skill window. Divine power, proficiency 40%, God's power. Originally it meant nothing, but the faith of many has turned it into divinity. Though small and frail, it's definitely powered by belief. The proficiency had reached 40%. This change was reflected in the description. It talked about how people's faith had turned into divinity. Taesan raised his hand, King. Light emerged there, a small, frail light. It flickered as if it would go out like a candle, but it clearly illuminated the darkness. Taesan had seen this power somewhere before. It was similar to the power the demon god had wielded. The ghost mumbled, dumbfounded, "Divinity, wait, really? Is it belief?" The people of Korea believed in him. Literally, everyone did. Consequently, his divine power had been gradually increasing. Now it seemed that enough faith had gathered to form divinity. Oh wow, think you can handle it." Taesan concentrated, attempting to make the divinity take residence in his body. However, the light did not move. It remained flickering just above Taesan's hand as at the beginning. The ghost, having barely recovered from the surprise, summarized, "Exploits in soul ascension and the faith of people, layered upon each other to gain divinity. This is unheard of. Considering your uniqueness, it seems not impossible, but it seems you can't wield it yet." Divinity existed within Taesan but did not move. It was something lofty, something that could not be felt by his will alone. "It seems to be of little significance now. Yes, this makes sense." The ghost sighed in relief. If a mortal managed to obtain divinity and control it, even the deeply involved ghost might not have accepted it. But Taesan continued to gaze intently at the light, a tiny light, yet it was clearly driving away the darkness, something that neither the Seed of Calamity nor the Starlight Arrow had achieved. "You can't be. The reason I can't wield this is because my level and power are insufficient." He tried to place it in the ring, but the ring seemed to reject it as if it couldn't accommodate it. Then it might be impossible. What if it wasn't his power, but something he had received, the power of a transcendent that he still couldn't properly control? "You have activated blackness." The shadows swallowed the light. Chapter 244. Fourth Return Earth, Part 11. Shadows and light clashed. They mixed together, emitting distorted colors in all directions. Taesan groaned. A massive pressure engulfed his entire body. Everything began to distort. Sensing danger, thousands of monsters charged at once. Each one was a B-grade monster. Kang, a very faint wave spread from the mixed entity that Taesan could not control. Quad-Duke. The thousands of monsters charging twisted into pretzel shapes, crushed by a force too weak to become fragments. Taesan fortified his body tightly with both spirit and strength. But still, he couldn't withstand it. Creaking noises began as the intensity wavered. Taesan clicked his tongue, trying to balance the power. He concentrated the power, achieving balance, but it was rejected. The power of the divine, divinity. The power that distorted the divine, black. These opposing forces mixed and distorted again. Cracks began to form in the space. Crumbled fragments fell. The inner world was a domain created with the power of an S-grade monster capable of destroying worlds. All that power was condensed into a tiny space. It was akin to a world unto itself, and that world was collapsing. This seems quite dangerous." It was to be expected. Taesan had the divine power but couldn't fully control it. He also had the black power but was equally unable to control it. Both were powers he couldn't control, and he had mixed them together in one place. Even though they were entirely opposing forces, a reaction occurred. There was no way Taesan could control it. The mixed divinity and shadow began to transform into something grayish. The ghost watched anxiously and hesitated. The ghost had seen many powers before. In its lifetime, it had gone deep enough to understand and analyze most of the powers it encountered, including their weaknesses, directions, and principles. Without such capabilities, it wouldn't have reached the depths. That's why the ghost could immediately recognize that the small light Taesan wielded was divinity. It also easily realized that the overtly foreign power was that of the banished high gods. But now the gray power in Taesan's grip was unrecognizable. No matter how much it was observed, analysis was impossible. It truly was a power beyond the realm of the unknown. "What's this?" While the ghost was flustered, Taesan was calmly assessing the situation. "It's dangerous, Quad-Duke." The space began to collapse. He couldn't withstand the force emerging from the S-grade monster. It wasn't just a simple issue of strength. An S-grade monster, something he had struggled to defeat even in his previous life, could not withstand the gray force. The repulsion and collision of opposing forces. And their forced combination. The power explosively surged from this instability. The principles were largely understandable. The problem was that it was much bigger than Taesan had anticipated. Kijijijig. Taesan gathered all his strength into the mixed entity. He was able to control it just barely without it bursting at a very precarious point. But that was all. It was impossible to manipulate this power as Taesan intended. It was literally an uncontrollable power. You have activated mental acceleration. He focused his mind even more. How should he handle this power? He tried to put it into a ring, but the ring desperately resisted as if it didn't want to break, as if it couldn't handle it. The thoughts continued. All kinds of ideas flashed and disappeared repeatedly, and all of them were deemed impossible. Only a very weak power mixed in was the answer. If he had added even a little more, control would have been impossible and it would have exploded. Control was impossible, can't help it. Taesan made a decision. He gave up on control. The ghost was horrified. The power he couldn't handle. If so, just don't handle it. Just let it explode as he wanted. The precariously held gray power began to rampage, seeking freedom. Even monsters far away turned to dust and disappeared, cracking the entire space. Simply giving up control and letting the power rampage was killing the monsters. Boom. The space trembled. A massive force on the other side imbued the monsters. The breaking space filled up again and pitch-black darkness rushed in. The dying monsters revived. They focused their power on Taesan. The darkness that swallowed light charged at Taesan. Kagagak, but it all shattered against the gray. It was as if an earthquake occurred, everything crumbled. A power that made even divine intervention meaningless. Taesan injected even more power into the gray entity. The sacred and the shadow mixed together. Taesan gripped it, recoiling as if in resistance. It felt as though merely holding it contaminated the soul, but he could wield it. Your endurance has been activated. Damage leading to death has been nullified. For 1 second, all damage is 0. Taesan gripped the gray and swung it. The condensed grayish burst exploded. Eek, Kagagak. Kim Hweon barely managed to take down a monster. She gasped for breath. Her stamina was nearly depleted. Enough people had died that it seemed reasonable to consider the battle lost. But Kim Hweon did not give up. Fight, she raised her weapon. We can win this. Oh, ooh, her words rallied the people and they got up. At that moment, a small, insect-like monster charged at Kim Hweon. Kim Hweon tried to react, but her exhausted body could not move properly. It was when Kim Hweon sensed her impending death. Kagek, an axe struck down the monster. The monster flailed under the weight of the axe, but it did not budge. A pale-faced man who had saved Kim Hweon asked, "Are you okay?" Lee Jae-hyuk, thank you. Kim Hweon expressed her gratitude and stood up. Lee Jae-hyuk watched as she charged back at the monsters. Is this the difference? Having been utterly rejected by Taesan, he quietly observed Kim Hweon trying to understand what made her different from him, and he learned a lot. He had pursued power, wanting to be a leader. The lives of others or their sentiments were not important to him, and he thought this was natural for a leader. He believed that only those who do not care about others and lead alone can be leaders. But Kim Hweon was different. She moved forward with others, and always with a steady expression she boldly proclaimed. She must have known that the situation was desperate, yet she stood up believing they could win. She had always been like that. Even in the labyrinth, she faced people with a bright expression. He was different. To him, others were merely tools for power. What they thought or hoped for was not his concern. Perhaps that attitude had subtly shown through, that he did not care about them, that he would not be heartbroken if they died. Could they always be trusted and relied upon? Were they unreliable in danger? That was the immediate difference. A closer look would reveal even more. That's why people chose Kim Hweon over him. Lee Jae-hyuk smirked wryly. He still believed in his way. He thought a leader should act boldly. But now he no longer thought to deny Kim Hweon. He stepped forward, not as a leader but as a hard-mode player following Kim Hweon's words. The battle continued. The situation remained desperate. Despite their earnest efforts under Kim Hweon, the number of monsters did not decrease. Only the people were falling. Kim Hweon bit her lip. It was the moment the word annihilation flashed through her mind. Chaejak. What? The monster's movement suddenly stopped. Behind them, a huge monster that had swallowed Taesan was splitting open. Kuung, Minerva, who had been driving the giants with the wind, felt it too. Her face hardened as she sent a giant flying with the wind. Huh, what is this power? Barkaza also gasped quietly. Minerva looked at the S-grade monster. What is that? Her gaze conveyed her confusion. The power that exists within the gods, the power the labyrinth could possess, was not the divine power, nor was it the power of the high gods that exists beyond the order of the divine. It was something in between. Ash-gray energy flowed from the gaps between monsters and exploded. Your soul ascension has been activated. Proficiency has increased by 4%. Your soul ascension has been activated. The proficiency of the special continuous activation skill Twisted Soul Tuning has increased by 3%. Your soul ascension has been activated. You have acquired the special activation skill Inner World. The proficiency of Transcendence Black has increased by 1%. You have acquired Boundary. As you are out of the labyrinth, you could not acquire the skill. The world became visible. Taesan muttered calmly, "It's done." "You, what are you?" the ghost asked, unable to comprehend. Which head thought to combine those two? If things went wrong, you could have been torn limb from limb, you know. It turned out fine, right? You, don't be like that. It was all calculated. Taesan couldn't penetrate the interior of the S-grade monster as he was right now. That meant he had to draw out something beyond the power he currently possessed. That was precisely the sacred and the black. He anticipated that mixing the two would cause a reaction. The collision of two opposing, massive forces was expected. The important thing was whether he could control it or not. If he couldn't control it, what should he do? Dealing with an uncontrollable, powerful force, Taesan also had to risk his life. It was for that endurance, a skill that nullified damage leading to death just once. There were no boundaries to this skill. Even the most formidable force, no matter how great, could be nullified once. In his previous life, he had even withstood an apostle's attack. That's why Taesan stopped trying to control it and unleashed the gray power. "Did you really think all this through? I don't gamble without a chance of winning." "This crazy guy," the ghost exclaimed with a pale face. Taesan looked around. "It seems all the monsters have vanished. Since the monster that was their master is dead, they naturally vanished." Taesan looked down at his hand. The gray power was dissipating like mist. The S-grade monster had an inherent flaw. All its power was focused on trapping Taesan, and it was so unstable that even a minor disturbance could have caused it to burst like a balloon. In such a situation, it couldn't withstand the internal explosion of power and vanished. But even so, to eliminate it in one strike was more power than he had anticipated. Oh, people who realized the situation belatedly cheered. Taesan, we believed in you." They sat down, shedding tears of relief. Kim Hweon came running with a bright face. "Mr. Taesan, you did it, somehow. How's the situation?" "It's not very good." Taesan glanced at the people. Their numbers were noticeably fewer than before Taesan had confronted the monster. At least more than half had been lost. "But still, we haven't perished. We survived." Despite the significant losses, there was no one left who was weak enough to be broken by that now. They celebrated their survival, praising Taesan. "Master." Minerva and Barkaza arrived belatedly. Confusion was evident on Minerva's face. What was that gray light just now? It was a mix of divine and high god powers. Divine and high god powers, Minerva's eyes widened. "Why do you, the master, possess the power of the high gods? If I start explaining that, it'll turn into a long story. Just think of it as my own power for the sake of simplicity." "I don't understand it all, but mixed." "What does that mean?" Minerva was a spirit king. She possessed vast knowledge about the world. This included information on transcendence, immortals, and even the high divine. However, the gray light power that had just emerged was something she did not possess. It indicated that it was a power unknown even to the guardians of the world. "I don't know exactly either." Taesan shook his head. He had anticipated the creation of power due to the reaction, but he was unsure about the nature of the power itself. But some beings are aware of it. Quest complete. With conditions met, descent is permitted. Space tore open. Those who had been shouting Taesan's name paused for a moment. Kim Hweon, standing next to them, turned pale and staggered back. "Oh," Minerva's face blanched. A colossal being emerged from the torn space. "It's been a very long time since I've made an appearance before so many mortals." A man with black hair appeared, his voice lazy and unhurried. People instinctively bowed their heads. They felt nothing from the man. To be precise, they were not even at a level to perceive him, yet they understood. The man who had appeared was a being beyond their comprehension. "The god of despair, Aphrodite, has appeared." Chapter 245. Fourth Return Earth, Part 12. Taesan opened his mouth. "Is it you, Lord Aphrodite, this time?" "Yes, I descended here of my own will." "That's unexpected." Taesan had anticipated the descent of the spirit god or the god of choice. Aphrodite spoke. "Normally, I wouldn't be interested. The labyrinth and trivial matters outside it were beyond my concern, but the trials I imposed on you piqued my interest." Aphrodite turned his gaze. His gaze rested on Lee Taeyeon. Lee Taeyeon flinched and trembled. To think that such a fragile and weak person has descended to the depths of the labyrinth. Intriguing. Indeed, potential cannot be ignored. His voice was not loud enough to be heard by others, Taesan realized. Aphrodite had discerned the end of Earth and the existence of Lee Taeyeon while bestowing his trial on Taesan. It seemed he had become interested and decided to descend here himself. After all, the first god to appear on Earth was Labyrinth, the god of strife and death. When Labyrinth appeared, Taesan was fighting at a distance. Therefore, although people felt the presence of a colossal being, they did not see the god directly. The next to descend was the demon god, and the same happened then. Lee Taeyeon and Kang Junhyuk felt her power but had never actually seen her. Thus, Aphrodite was the first god to visibly appear before the people. Aphrodite's external appearance was ordinary. He was a handsome man with black hair but nothing extraordinary, yet people could not bear to look at him. As if merely gazing upon him was a sinful act, they averted their eyes on their own. The faces of Lee Taeyeon and Kang Junhyuk turned pale. The two were adventurers who had descended into solo mode. Although merely a fragment compared to others, they could sense Aphrodite's presence. Ha, they gasped for air. Struggling to control their ragged breathing, they bowed their heads. They were afraid. Having challenged the trial of the gods several times, they were well aware of the extent of power the entity before them possessed. If he wished, he could easily crush the earth. Aphrodite glanced at them briefly and raised his finger. Half-hearted power only binds its wielder. I shall show mercy, humans. His finger twirled and the people vanished. Taesan momentarily expanded his senses. Then he knew. Everyone present had been moved inside the city hall. There was no aura of power, no wave of force. It seemed akin to a divine ability. Aphrodite looked down at Taesan. First, congratulations, mortal, you have excellently overcome this trial, he commended Taesan. They changed their methods, you survived, but most others might have died. We anticipated that too. The grip that consumed Taesan was something he couldn't escape with his power, and the monsters that were summoned were not something other players could have overcome. Aphrodite had judged that only a few would survive, but the outcome was entirely different. You have triumphed nearly perfectly. You may take pride in yourself. O great divinity. Minerva bowed her body. May I dare to ask a question? Is that Beatrice's child? Aphrodite gazed intently at Minerva. Normally, a mortal daring to speak would be punished, but then Beatrice would show her anger towards me. Be thankful to your mother. Permission granted, spirit. What a wonderful mother, Minerva said with a playful smile. Having been granted permission to speak, she looked at Taesan. The power my master wielded. Could you tell us about it? The gray power that defeated the S-rank monster. Taesan was curious too. He had skimmed over the description of the skill he obtained, but he couldn't understand what it meant. Aphrodite smiled faintly at Minerva's question. The power he wielded, you mean the power tinged with gray? Yes, Minerva nodded. Aphrodite looked at Taesan with an interested gaze. Many gods are interested in you. We have been watching the battles here. Is that so? It was unexpected that the gods were watching his battles. Aphrodite continued. I knew about your exceptional nature, I knew which direction it would take. But this was beyond expectation. A power even the gods hadn't anticipated. The power you possess is special. You plunder the power of whoever you defeat, even if it's a high god. A mix of emotions, interest, curiosity, slight agitation, and hostility were directed at Taesan. It's the first time a being of this world uses the power of a high god without a pact, and it's also the first time such a being possesses divinity. Likewise, you are the first to mix two powers. Aphrodite raised his hand. A small light appeared there. It was the divinity that Taesan had wielded. However, the level and quality of that power were overwhelmingly high. Divinity is a power amassed in the process of becoming a god. It's an authority we create with our will. In contrast, the power of a high god was an immutable power one possessed from birth. Aphrodite waved his hand to extinguish the divinity. That power is on the verge. On the verge. Minerva asked, puzzled, but Aphrodite did not answer. I suppose I must say so. Since there are no signs of you becoming corrupted by wielding that power, I will not interfere. However, I am unsure about others. Aphrodite murmured softly. With such power, they might approach things differently. It might bring about a change we haven't seen in a long time. He likely meant the high gods. I will observe. Where you arrive, what lies at the end, how your story will unfold. Aphrodite chuckled. Firstly, you did well, the god of despair declared. You have triumphed over beings that invaded your world. You can be proud of that. The declaration of victory spoken by the god himself. Power surged from Aphrodite's entire form. I must also give you a fitting reward. The power began to spread across the world. It enveloped the entire land of Korea, dwelling within the people who resided there. Receive it. This is the first reward. Manifestation of divine power. Part of the high god's domain enveloping the earth is removed. With the domain's removal, restrictions are lifted. Acquiring skills on earth is now possible. Exchanging items obtained in the labyrinth is now possible. However, equipment cannot be exchanged, only consumables. Taesan's pupils dilated. From the distant city hall, cheers and voices could be heard all the way here. Aphrodite asked, Are you satisfied? Taesan nodded. There were various restrictions on Earth. Among them, the most significant were the inability to acquire skills and to exchange items. The former was the most significant restriction. No matter how desperately one tried on Earth to obtain new skills, they were all sealed and unusable. In his previous life, he had attempted to teach at least the basic skills to those who had returned, but it was futile due to this restriction. Now it has been lifted, and even the exchange of consumables had been enabled. In his previous life, he was an easy mode player. Naturally, he often ran out of mana and health. Anticipating the need, he had filled his inventory with potions before venturing out, but even those ran out within a few years. That's why he struggled with mana shortages as he fought monsters. But now, with the restriction on consumables lifted, everyone could trade items like potions and arrows. Although he did not feel a significant shortage of mana now, the situation would be different after clearing the labyrinth. Unable to return to the labyrinth, he had to manage limited consumables. Being able to distribute these items among people was directly linked to survival. So this was possible too, you would have known. In other worlds, it's possible to obtain labyrinth skills, but it was not here. Those things interfered, but now only in this area where you have triumphed can it be fully lifted. Thank you. The reward was more than he had anticipated. Taesan was thoroughly satisfied, but Aphrodite was not yet done. Then I will give you the second reward. Aphrodite's power descended again upon the people at the city hall. Manifestation of divine power. Blessings are bestowed. You have received the divine blessing Will of Despair. Let's check. Thank you. Taesan opened the skill window. Divine blessing Will of Despair. It's a grace. When the mind is pushed to the brink and falls into despair, the blessing activates. It awakens the mind and fills it with the will to win. A blessing for the mind. It was a good blessing. The labyrinth was cruel. Even in the easiest easy mode, many were broken mentally, becoming invalids or dying. It was a blessing that eased the mental strain. It seemed likely to significantly reduce the number of people mentally overwhelmed to the point of death. Thank you for this grace. It is a blessing that every mortal desires, but it will be meaningless for you. Taesan silently agreed. He no longer despaired now. He just moved forward for strength and victory. Therefore, Aphrodite's grace held no value for him. Aphrodite's hand shook. Then I will give you something else. His power began to descend upon Taesan. It seems you haven't yet utilized the power I've given you. A skill obtained by overcoming a trial from Aphrodite, the seed of despair. It could grow whenever he sensed the despair of his enemies. It seemed he had accumulated quite a bit while dealing with the spirit world and the 51st floor, but the skill was still not usable. It seems to have accumulated quite a bit, so I will fill the rest. The condition for the special activation skill Seed of Despair has been lifted. It has transformed into Branch of Despair. Thank you, the god himself had lifted the restriction. Its value was undoubtedly immense. Aphrodite stood up, perhaps signaling that all rewards had now been distributed. Then I must conclude it. Conclude it. Taesan could guess what that meant. Everyone in Korea had gathered in Seoul and completed the quest. Now it was time to move on. Aphrodite clenched his fist. Crack, the world began to distort. People in the city hall screamed and collapsed. Taesan looked intently towards the horizon, the semi-transparent barrier that had been spread across the edge of the land. It was a barrier that had made it impossible to move until the quest was completed. Because of it, Taesan hadn't been able to help people from other regions during his second return. It was now distorting and breaking apart. Open. As the god spoke, the barrier shattered. The distorted world returned to its original form. Simultaneously, a system window appeared. Congratulations, you have completed the last regional quest. The barriers enveloping each country are removed. You can now move to other countries. There are no specific restrictions on movement, but you may face disadvantages in subsequent quests. The next return will involve national-level quests. Be vigilant and prepare. The community is expanding. From now on, players not only from your country but from other countries can communicate. Finally, the first restriction was lifted. Aphrodite's form began to disperse. He soared high into the sky. Prove your worth, mortals, and survive. His mighty voice spread across the entire world. Just before disappearing, Aphrodite looked at Taesan. I look forward to the next time. Taesan nodded. Aphrodite completely vanished and Minerva breathed out heavily. Talking directly with a god is always nerve-wracking. How can you be so calm? I'm used to it, Taesan responded as he turned around. The city hall was in chaos. People were probably struggling to understand what the system window that had just appeared meant. Taesan intended to explain it to them. He walked towards the city hall. Chapter 246, Fourth Return Earth. Part 13, when people gathered in Seoul to elect a leader, the conference room was filled once again. There was a gathering there again. Where is Sejong? He's dead. Ah, their numbers had dwindled since the beginning. They closed their eyes momentarily to pray for the souls of the departed. Then Mr. Taesan. After a moment of silence, Kim Hweon addressed Taesan. Can we hear a rough story of what happened? I came here specifically to explain. Taesan began his account. He detailed how the high gods attempted to capture and kill him. In that ordeal, Taesan emerged victorious. And with his victory, the conditions were met and a god descended. At the mention of a god, the people reacted with disbelief and shock. A god? Is it the kind of god we're thinking of, like Jesus Christ? No, it's different. Taesan shook his head. In his experience, the concept of a monotheistic god was absent. Each was once mortal who had become transcendent, each possessed varying levels of power, and they all maintained reasonably good relations with one another. They were not adversaries. Instead, it was more accurate to view them as allies united against a common foe, the high gods. As Taesan succinctly explained, the people were enthralled. So it's that kind of concept. The labyrinth was also created by their power. This is really profound. It doesn't really matter, Taesan spoke up. What's important is that we survive and prevail. At those words, a spark of determination lit up in people's eyes. That's right, yeah, winning is what matters most. From the moment they found themselves trapped in the labyrinth, they had anticipated interference from transcendental beings. As Taesan pointed out, their survival was the paramount concern. Did everyone receive their rewards? Yes, Kim Hweon confirmed, the blessing of the god of despair. It awakened the mind when one was plunged into despair. Everyone present was at least a hard mode player. They understood the significant advantage this represented. Thank you so much, Mr. Taesan. That's fine, you all managed well too. Honestly, I thought more of you would die. Half of them had survived. It was a significant loss, but considering the circumstances, it was relatively small. Kim Hweon bit her lip. Everyone tried their best, literally risking their lives. That sacrifice could not be in vain, they had to survive. For themselves and for those who didn't make it, they slowly checked for any changes. So the first change is, can we now obtain skills on Earth too? Seo Jangson asked. Is it confirmed? Yeah. Some people got skills while eliminating the rifts. All of them could now use the skills they acquired. Is that for real? Now we can learn skills here too. Seo Jangson was captivated. Being able to learn skills on Earth was a huge advantage. Survival on Earth was not easy. Even those who had been through hell in the labyrinth had to risk their lives, and skills were more likely to be acquired in extreme situations. That meant on Earth, there were not a few cases where people learned skills while clearing quests. Until now, they had to seal the skills until they returned to the labyrinth, but now they could use them immediately upon learning them. It might not seem like a big change right now, but it would definitely be a significant advantage in the long term. That's good. The next change has been confirmed too. Kim Hweon took out a red potion from her inventory and tossed it to Lee Taeyeon, who skillfully caught it. Lee Taeyeon made a strange face as she fiddled with the potion. It really transferred. The exchange of consumables, what was impossible until now, had been unlocked. Up until now, whenever they tried to pass potions, they would bounce off and return to the original owner. But the potion, now handed to Lee Taeyeon, had changed ownership from Kim Hweon to Lee Taeyeon. Lee Taeyeon then tossed the potion back to Kim Hweon, who placed it in her inventory. Honestly, this is the best part. A smile formed on Kim Hweon's lips. The exchange of consumables, its value was incredibly significant. How many potions do you all have left? 1. I've used up all mine. It was a close call. Overall, everyone had 1 or 2 if not none left. The battles had been that intense. Potions aren't cheap. We need to buy other equipment too, and a lot gets used when we descend into the labyrinth, so naturally we can't bring much back to Earth. But now, we can have people from easy or normal modes bring back potions. Right, Kim Hweon nodded vigorously. From what I've heard, those places can supply gold more steadily than hard mode. If they bring back consumables each time they return, we can fight much more stably. While hard mode dropped more gold from monsters, the difficulty was much higher. In modes like easy or normal, players could combine their strengths and defeat monsters without using potions. But in hard mode, even defeating 1 or 2 monsters required using a potion each time. As soon as they acquired it, the gold was spent, making it difficult to accumulate in hard mode. As long as the health system protected them, they wouldn't die as long as they had a moment to drink a potion. But if there were no potions to use, the benefits of the system were not fully utilized. One of the biggest reasons people died on this return was because they lacked means of recovery. That issue had been resolved for the next return. Then someone said, but is that okay? To be blunt, you're just asking those in easy and normal modes to bring back potions because they're no help to you otherwise. Won't they resist? I've thought about that too. But it can't be helped. Kim Hweon spoke coldly. There's no way to live together that satisfies everyone. There will be resistance, but they'll have to accept it. There won't be any major problems, Taesan said. The people in easy and normal modes trusted Kim Hweon, who didn't abandon them. If she said something, they'd accept it. Then, the last thing, their faces became ambiguous. It was the most crucial information, yet it remained uncertain how it would change things. Kim Hweon was captivated. Now quests will be carried out by each country. The last system window that appeared, congratulations. You have cleared the last quest in your region. The barriers surrounding each country will be removed. From now on, you can move to other countries. There are no restrictions on movement, but you may face disadvantages in future quests. The next return will involve quests at the national level. Prepare and be ready. The community will expand. From now on, players can communicate not just with players from their own country but also with players from other countries. What do you think will happen? Kim Hweon asked Taesan. All eyes were on him. Taesan knew the flow of events to come, what they needed to prepare for and what to anticipate. But that was a story from a previous life. Taesan shook his head. I don't know. Well, even Mr. Taesan can't know everything. If you knew you'd be a god, that's it. Now that the community is open, think about it when we return to the labyrinth. That would be best. It was now possible to communicate with people from other countries through the community. Not just Korea but Japan, China, the United States, and Europe, people from all around the world. They could find out how they were living and what they were doing. Anticipation and anxiety were mixed on people's faces. Hopefully none of them have been annihilated. Ah, come on, it's a possibility because Taesan wasn't there. People's gazes followed these last words. Leaning against the wall, Taesan moved. I'm going back tomorrow, so sort out the rest among yourselves. What about you, Mr. Taesan? I've got something to see. He stepped outside. Outside, people were celebrating survival, mourning death, and sharing their hopes and fears for the future. Then they spotted Taesan. They sprang up and ran toward him. Ooh, Mr. Taesan, Mr. Taesan, they shouted at the top of their lungs. They saw Taesan meeting with Aphrodite. They didn't know his identity, but they could guess he was a being who had bestowed blessings upon them. Naturally, they came to believe they had received these blessings thanks to Taesan. Their faith in him grew even stronger. As Taesan passed by, he noticed a familiar face. Mr. Taesan, a young man shouted passionately at Taesan. Lee Chong-chun, a hard-mode player who had been beaten up by Taesan during the last return of his previous life. He's still alive. Taesan smirked and walked out to the city hall. He looked up at the sky. The cracks in the sky were calm, as if waiting for their next turn. What could it mean? With this kind of power, they could approach you in different ways. Aphrodite had said that. Its meaning was still unclear. So, are we going back to the labyrinth now? At Minerva's words, Taesan nodded. She chuckled. There's been quite a lot going on. I didn't expect to meet a transcendent directly to fight with the high gods. It was fun. I never thought I'd experience so much so soon after being born. Minerva continued with a satisfied expression. I don't fully understand the power my master possesses, but it's a power that my master directly controls. That's enough for me. Minerva's form flickered like TV noise. The power required for her summoning was almost depleted, indicating she was about to be unsummoned. Will you be gone for a while then? You're only going to continue descending into the labyrinth, aren't you? Not right away though, right? You have things to do too. Minerva was the guardian of Aurelia. She had to protect that world. Right. I'll be away for a while. Minerva looked at Barkaza. Barkaza, take good care of things even in my absence. I am not only the king's servant but also yours. I must protect you. I trust you. And you too, Ghost. What can a bodiless one protect? Is that so? Minerva laughed. Her body began to fade along with some noise. Then see you next time, Master. Minerva has been unsummoned. She disappeared. Taesan spoke towards the void. See you. And then the time came. Monster defeat bonus plus 743. Rift removal bonus plus 587. Special monster kill bonus plus 1,245. Merit bonus plus 255. Settlement complete. 2830 points will be awarded. Taesan returned to the labyrinth. The settled points were 28-0. It was not a small amount. There were considerable advantages to be gained with these points, but Taesan opened the community instead. Kim Hweon hard, oh wow, Lee Taeyeon solo. Excuse me, can you calm down for a moment? Adam Smith solo, what, more alive than I thought everyone had died. Rachel Uchital hard, please slow down a bit, it's too fast to have a conversation. Miyuki Kazuya normal, wow people so many. Messages in the community were being posted at a rapid pace. It was impossible to have a conversation. Taesan was slightly surprised. Much faster than before. It wasn't slow in his past life, but now it was several times faster. Did more survive in other countries than in my previous life? It seemed that the power of the high gods was more concentrated on Taesan this time, giving the world more leeway than before. Trying to read a conversation was futile due to the speed, so Taesan turned off the community. He planned to talk once things calmed down a bit. This time too, Taesan did not start using the points. There was something else he needed to check first. Boundary, proficiency, between the divine and beyond divine, something that draws forth the divine and the black. System error. Please consult the Labyrinth Administrator for details. Chapter 24756 Floor, Part 1. It wasn't the first time Taesan had seen on a skill. However, it was the first time he had seen it accompanied by instructions to consult the Labyrinth Administrator due to a system error. Balbabamba. Taesan opened his mouth, and shortly after, the floor collapsed while bricks rose up. Again you, a voice echoed, tired and weary. It must be the first time someone has summoned me repeatedly in such a short period. What do you want this time? It says I should call you. What are you talking about? How should I show this? Taesan opened the skill window and pushed it towards Balbabamba. Like this, a skill, that's a reason to call me. Belbabamba fell silent. After a long silence, he finally spoke. What is that? I'm asking because I don't know either. There were a few skills the labyrinth couldn't explain. One was a conceptual skill he obtained from the world of blacksmith Harfrin. As proficiency increased, more of its content was being unlocked. The next was a black essence obtained from the high gods. It was written in strange characters, seemingly unexplainable, but neither included instructions to call an administrator. Balbabamba groaned. There are a few cases where a skill's description might be missing. The first is when the skill's level is much higher than the user's power. As you increase your proficiency or power, a description will emerge. You have such a skill among yours. The conceptual skill, that's what he seemed to be referring to. And the second is when the power is known but its nature isn't fully understandable, such as the power of the high gods. He was referring to the power of the high gods. The last is when the power and its effects are both unknown. In such cases, an instruction to summon me for verification is added. Is that what this is? What is it? Balbabamba's voice was full of confusion. This place is the labyrinth created by the magician and the gods. Even if it's the power of the high gods, its effects might be unknown, but the type of power should be identifiable. However, what you possess is, I can't understand anything. A power unknown to both the magician and gods. That was the boundary line. I need to check it, try using it. It's hard to predict the aftermath. It's a power I can't control either. Can you stop it? You can't control it, even with your abilities. Balbabamba muttered, baffled. Has anyone witnessed you using that power? The god of despair was watching. Aphrodite, after a brief silence, Balbabamba spoke again. I should ask Aphrodite directly. Until then, let's put this on hold. Kugagung. Balbabamba's body crumbled to the floor. Barkaza muttered in a captivating voice. Is that the labyrinth administrator? He's strong. No one within the labyrinth could likely match him. There was no issue with the skill he had acquired. It had been confirmed, now it was time to check the rest. Special activation skill, Inner World. Mana cost 1000, proficiency 1%, expands one's power and authority into a domain. Should I consider it a barrier? You have activated your inner world. Taesan's presence expanded. His authority and power began to permeate the space, engulfing it. Click, click, like a puzzle fitting together, the room was enveloped by Taesan's power. Seconds later, the room became Taesan's domain. It's not just suppression. Is it a skill that forces a fight? This place itself has become a sort of domain. Without considerable power, it would be difficult to escape. That's not bad. Taesan tapped the edge of his domain. Though the power had spread out and weakened slightly, it was still strong enough that an equal opponent couldn't escape. Using Apostle Transformation or King's Vessel would solidify the domain further. It was a skill that could enforce a one-sided duel, quite useful indeed. Next, it was time to check the skill evolved by Aphrodite. Special activation skill, Branches of Despair. Mana cost 50, proficiency 1%, implants branches of despair inside the touched opponent. The opponent experiences a terrible emotional turmoil. A one-on-one dedicated skill. It seemed to be a skill that allowed him to influence and manipulate emotions. Emotional interference skills often became useless depending on the opponent's level. However, this was an emotional interference skill bestowed directly by the god of despair. Even a powerful individual, even if they were a leader of the guides, could be affected. If truly so, the value of this skill was quite high. The verification of acquired skills was complete. Now it was time to use the points. What should I do? Taesan sat on the floor pondering. The points he had gained were 2830. Converted to skill proficiency at a ratio of 110, that was 283%. But none of the skills Taesan possessed now would allow him to apply that much proficiency. Each point was very costly because each was incredibly valuable. Conceptual skills or transcendent skills and magic are definitely impossible. Very high-level skills did not allow for point application. That meant he had to invest in a slightly lower-level skill. Intermediate magic is also terribly inefficient. He had considered raising the proficiency of Starlight Arrow, but it took 100 points to raise 1%. Even if he invested all his points, it would only increase by 28%. Of course, the skill was powerful enough with that increase, but it was still frustrating. Taesan clicked his tongue. In his previous life, he hadn't acquired skills of this level, so he hadn't considered these drawbacks. Taesan continued to ponder, and then he decided, I should use it for the spirits. Spirit skill, spirit contract, proficiency. 2%, contracts with spirits are made to draw out their power and summon them. However, the full potential of the spirit's power has yet to be harnessed. Barkaza and Minerva were strong, but Taesan was still unable to fully harness their power. Taesan invested points into the spirit contract. As his proficiency significantly increased and consumed more points, he began to enhance the contract proficiency with Barkaza and Minerva. Barkaza, observing, was impressed. Oh, suddenly his power was being enhanced. The total amount of power he could handle was increasing and he was becoming smoother in managing it. What is this? Barkaza was astonished. He had done nothing, yet his power was increasing. It was an experience he had never had before. After using all the points, Taesan checked the changed details. Spirit skill, spirit contract, proficiency. 40% contracts with spirits to draw out their power and summon them, can now freely use the power of the spirits and draw out some of their power. Taesan waved his hand, wind and light mingled above it. He had become much more flexible in handling power. With a bit more familiarity, he felt he could create a typhoon without using any mana. Spirit contract, a top-class spirit of various colors. Barkaza, proficiency. 20% mana cost for summoning. 30. Contracted with Barkaza. Barkaza can be summoned and commanded and his power can be further drawn upon. Spirit contract, the king of wind spirits. Minerva, proficiency. 26% mana cost for summoning. 100. Contracted with Minerva. Minerva's power can be further drawn upon, but she cannot be summoned due to the terms of the contract. There was no significant change in the content of the spirit contract. However, the change felt by the spirits seemed to be substantial. Barkaza was stuttering in shock. What in the world? It seems you're really feeling it. Is this the labyrinth? Barkaza groaned. Labyrinth. A space where systems created by transcendence came into play. Barkaza belatedly realized what that meant. Not bad at all. He had become noticeably stronger. The same must be true for Minerva. Given her current state, she could easily defeat any monster that had troubled her on Earth. The community is still a mess. Though the speed had decreased slightly from before, it was still difficult to converse. Kim Hweon and other leaders from different countries were trying hard to control it, but people were not easily listening. Then a familiar name caught his eye. Amelia Aaron Solo, shut up before I kill you all. Let's talk. The message clearly showed what kind of person she was. Taesan chuckled. She's alive as expected. Taesan turned off the community. It should calm down by tomorrow. That was when he planned to talk. It was now time to descend further into the labyrinth. Taesan moved forward. The monster on the 56th floor was a Pegasus. A horse flying in the sky had thrust its horn forward. Taesan slammed his hand down. The Pegasus crashed to the ground, spewing blood. It feels strange. It was a curious feeling to slaughter a mystical creature that seemed like it belonged in a fairy tale. Taesan quickly cleared the 56th floor. The rewards from the secret room, the clear reward and the secret reward were all items related to black magic, which Taesan offered to the demon god. Unlike before, the demon god did not appear. It merely collected the offerings with a black aura. Taesan thought it must be due to some urgent matter and entered the 57th floor. 57th floor quest start. Defeat the boss of the 57th floor and pass through. Reward. A brilliantly shining golden necklace. Secret reward. I'm starting to want it. What do you want? A new skill. The ghost was taken aback. What else is there to obtain? Taesan had obtained a lot. Compared to the ghost, it was incomparable. Conceptual skills, transcendental skills, the boundary line, etc. There were many, and each skill was incredibly valuable. Other adventurers would be grateful for a lifetime to have just one of these skills, but for Taesan, it was still not enough. I haven't obtained the skill I want yet. The skills he acquired in solo mode were all excellent, but they were not truly what he desired. I have a different foundation. Taesan has grown stronger here. With this power, he could easily surpass his past self, yet he was lacking the most important things. Addition, multiplication, copy, temporary time stop, absolute judgment. These skills made him comparable to Lee Taeyeon even in easy mode, skills he had obtained through his own effort and analysis. They were literally the essence of his power. He had not yet obtained even half of them. There are things I can't obtain right now. Skills like temporary time stop or multiplication required very special conditions. Even in his past life, it would have been impossible to reacquire them, but some could be obtained now. Taesan entered the 57th floor. As he passed through the passage, the monster of the 57th floor appeared. The first thing he noticed was that the air was different. A huge flower-shaped monster was emitting an intangible energy. Found it. Taesan drew his sword. The intangible Laplacia has appeared. Chapter 248. Absolute Protection, Part 1. Stay still. Understood. You have activated essence perception, reflegia of formlessness and transformation. Invisible poison scatters from the formless tentacles. The poison's quality and concentration can vary. As Lee Taeyeon had explained, I could feel the formless movements fluttering around reflegia. Those must be the tentacles described in the explanation. Let's see for now. Lee Taeyeon had told him a lot, what each floor contained, which monsters were waiting, and what secrets were hidden. Taesan couldn't remember everything, but he kept the interesting bits in his mind. One of them was the reflegia before him, a monster that could enable Taesan to acquire skills. Recognizing Taesan, the reflegia scattered its poison. Invisible forces envelop Taesan's entire body. Your first attack nullification has been activated. Your second attack nullification has been activated. Your third attack nullification has been activated. The attack nullifications were swiftly exhausted. And then the damage started coming in. You received 10 damage. You received 10 damage, about 10 then. His health began to drain rapidly, but it wasn't enough to kill Taesan. He approached Rafflesia. Then Rafflesia moved its formless tentacles. The concentration of the scattered poison changed. Taesan focused his gaze. He expanded his senses and read the flow of the changed poison. I can read it. He discerned the trajectory and quality of the poison and swung his sword. Whoosh, the sword wind caused by the sword strike dispersed the poison. Rafflesia moved its tentacles. The poison attacked like flames in all directions. Taesan didn't dodge, he moved his sword. Whoosh, he raised a wind. Creating a fist wind with his punch, he shook the tip of his sword, bewildering the trajectory of the poison. His dizzyingly moving hand scattered all the poison. It works, he could identify and deflect all the invisible attacks performed by Rafflesia, and the proficiency of the block is Special Continuous Activation Skill Block, Proficiency. 23% blocks damage below a certain value, however damage of 3 or more cannot be nullified. The effective block was to stop damage below a certain threshold. It's not about reducing 2 damage from 100, it completely nullified any damage that was 2 or less. 2. It was possible. Having confirmed everything, Taesan turned away from Rafflesia, who was about to scatter poison. Where are you going? I'm going to the shop, there's something I need to buy. When Taesan returned, the shopkeeper asked hesitantly, You just went down, why are you back already? I need something. Can I see the potions? All right. The shopkeeper, puzzled, made space and presented the potions. Taesan examined each one to find what he needed. Potion of Protection continuously nullifies types of damage by 3. 1000 G Potion of Enhancement. When mixed with a specific potion, the effects of the potion are enhanced. 1200 G Potion of Designated Enhancement. After using the potion, designating a skill temporarily increases its proficiency by 20%. However, it cannot be used on skills above a certain level. 1500 G. While examining the potions, the ghost inquired, I've always wondered why these are sold. They're just pointlessly expensive and useless, aren't they? The Potion of Protection, which reduced continuous damage. The effect itself wasn't bad, but it could only reduce a meager amount of 3. This was essentially a negligible figure, especially considering its cost of 1000 gold. The Potion of Enhancement is also useless because it increases by a fixed amount, not proportionally. Mixing it with a health potion would only change a 50% recovery to 52%. It was more sensible to buy additional potions for 1200 gold. The Potion of Designated Enhancement is also too flashy, as the skills you can designate are only of a basic level. Plus, it's too expensive. The duration is also short, only about 10 minutes. Isn't it just too useless? It couldn't be used on skills that could affect combat. All 3 were duds in the labyrinth, bought only by adventurers out of curiosity the first time. Don't ask me, I received these potions as part of a contract. They're unsellable and a nuisance. The shopkeeper clicked his tongue as he urged Taesan. What are you going to buy? Choose quickly. 2 potions of protection, 1 potion of enhancement, and 1 potion of designated enhancement, please. Taesan pointed out the Potion of Protection, Potion of Enhancement, and Potion of Designated Enhancement. All here, fortunately, he was able to obtain everything he wanted. These items could even be obtained in easy mode, so naturally they were expected. These. The shopkeeper was very puzzled by Taesan's choice. I don't know what you're thinking, but they're probably useless. But if you want them, I'll sell them to you. Thank you. Taesan handed over the gold. As he actually made the purchase, the shopkeeper looked at him with a face as if seeing something bizarre. Wow, I didn't expect those to sell. Taesan returned to the labyrinth. The ghost, who had been quiet, asked, Learning a new skill, did you notice? Whenever you do something strange, you always end up with some unbelievable skill. Can I ask what it's about? Barkaza answered the ghost's question. It's simple, the labyrinth is supported by a system bestowed by the gods. Adventurers can obtain skills corresponding to their specific actions. So the master is trying to obtain a skill. Right, what are you trying to get this time? The ghost asked with interest. Every time Taesan did something incomprehensible, he acquired a skill. Attack Nullification, Forced Dual Addition. Each skill was at an unreachable level. The skills he had obtained so far were impressive, but it meant there were still more to gain. The ghost was curious about what that might be. Taesan answered, Nullification of Continuous Damage. Continuous damage. You must have noticed while watching. What's the drawback of attack nullification? It's continuous damage, the ghost realized. Attack nullification was an absurd skill in itself. It erased all incoming attacks and reversed time to before the attacks occurred. Without exaggeration, even an ordinary adventurer with attack nullification could descend 3 more floors. But the only drawback was continuous damage. As if facing a world-destroying wolf, if the enemy simply standing before him caused continuous damage, attack nullification was utterly useless. Just moments ago with Rafflesia, as soon as the battle started, all the attack nullifications were used up, a clear disadvantage. You can solve that, the ghost was surprised. How? A skill for nullifying continuous damage. How do you even obtain that? The method to obtain the skill involves somewhat invoking its effect. Taesan answered. Watch, he approached Rafflesia again. You take 10 damage. A damage of 10 was registered. Taesan took out a potion of enhancement and a potion of protection. You mix the potion of enhancement and the potion of protection. The potion of protection has transformed into a potion of guarding. Potion of guarding continuously nullifies types of damage up to 5. You have used the potion of guarding. Continuous damage up to 5 is nullified. You take 5 damage. The damage from the poison was reduced by 5. Taesan took out another potion. You have used the potion of protection. Continuous damage up to 2 is nullified. You take 3 damage. The ghost was confused by the further reduced damage. Aren't you not supposed to stack the same potion? That's true for the same potion, but these are guarding and protection different potions. They can be stacked. The potions mixed, transforming into a different potion. The ghost was astounded by this fact. Such changes are possible, interesting, though it's not very meaningful. The ghost showed little interest. There were no potions that, even when stacked, would provide significant benefits, and 1,200 gold was not a small amount for an adventurer before entering deeper layers. It was too much of a burden to handle. Taesan finally took out the potion of designated enhancement. You have used the potion of designated enhancement. The proficiency of your block skill has increased by 20% for 10 minutes. Special continuous activation skill. Block proficiency 43%. Blocks damage below a certain value. However, damage of 4 or more cannot be nullified. Block could now stop 2 points of continuous damage at 20% proficiency. Now it was 40%. Rafflesia's continuous attack dealt damage of 10, and the reduced damage due to the potion was 7. The matching damage and blocks effect perfectly aligned, and the noisy damage window stopped. Continuous damage was perfectly blocked. The ghost let out a gasp. Block can be used with the potion of designated enhancement too. This is incredible. It blocked continuous damage that should have been impossible to block, using potions everyone thought were useless. Taesan quickly charged at Rafflesia and plunged his sword into it. He defeated it instantly and moved to the next room. A new formless and transforming Rafflesia has appeared. A new Rafflesia appeared. Rafflesia scattered poison, but no damage came through. Boom, Rafflesia moved its tentacles. It undulated and then spewed out invisible poison. This was a different type of poison that dealt continuous damage. If hit, the damage would be substantial. Taesan expanded his senses. He didn't dodge the scattering poison, but instead swung his sword to deflect it, twisting its trajectory. The conditions have been met. Taesan continued to block the dispersing poison. He slowly repelled the invisible, formless attacks. I'm curious, what exactly are the conditions for acquiring the skill? The ghost observed and had a rough idea. First, the enemy must inflict continuous damage, and that damage must be avoided. Additionally, the opponent's invisible attacks must be continuously blocked, but beyond that it couldn't speculate. While blocking the poison, Taesan spoke. First, the opponent must inflict continuous damage. Second, this continuous damage cannot be blocked by one's abilities but must still be intercepted. Third, despite possessing attack nullification, it must not be activated. Fourth, the opponent must utilize attacks that are invisible and lack physical force. Fifth, these invisible attacks must continually change. Sixth, all these conditions must be met without taking any damage for at least 7 minutes. After hearing the explanation, the ghost fell silent. Taesan kept blocking the poison. What that? The ghost spoke. Are you sure those are the conditions? That's nonsensical. The conditions were excessively strict. Even with the knowledge of how to acquire it, meeting those conditions seemed nearly impossible. I don't know. I just thought so because I acquired it when I met those conditions. Perhaps attack nullification isn't necessary. Maybe the attacks don't need to change. However, Taesan had acquired the special continuous activation skill, absolute protection, under those conditions. It was also the most difficult skill I ever acquired. Skills like multiplying or temporary time stop required difficult situations to meet, but those were not hard to satisfy once the special circumstances were met. But not so for absolute protection. Meeting the conditions themselves was the challenge. It was likely one of the most challenging skills he had ever acquired. The ghost let out a hollow laugh. How did you even acquire it? I didn't know either. The countless insane acts done to acquire the skill. Decades were literally poured into it, a product of time, obtained only through a series of coincidences, yet because of the inherent stat limitations of easy mode, it was a skill he couldn't use at all. That was absolute protection. Chapter 249, Absolute Protection, Part 2. In his past life, Taesan played on easy mode. Due to the limitations of his natural stats, surviving until the very end was virtually impossible. The only power capable of solving this problem was skills. That's why Taesan made an effort for the sake of acquiring skills. He devoted his entire life to the point of losing even his sense of self. He once invested several years to obtain a single skill. For a week, he didn't sleep and repeated the same actions, risking his life as if placing it on a knife's edge. He also sought ways to block continuous damage attacks, also known as do-T damage over time. To overcome the sole real flaw of attack nullification, Taesan did his utmost. First, he tried to think of a way to avoid receiving any continuous damage at all. The simplest method was to use blocking skills. Not taking damage below a certain threshold was the most suitable condition for blocking weak do-T attacks. However, merely blocking continuous damage with a blocking skill wouldn't yield any new skills. Even if it did, those skills obtained so easily wouldn't be very effective, so he conducted various experiments. First, he attempted to block continuous damage that couldn't be prevented with blocking skills. The 95th floor of easy mode was filled with a variety of monsters. Beasts, plants, insects, etc. would attack all at once, making it the final challenge of easy mode. Among them, there was a monster that sprayed poison. The do-T damage from this monster exceeded Taesan's blocking limit by 6. To reduce this gap of 6, Taesan tried various experiments. First, he experimented with physical methods. He covered most of his body, leaving only a small part exposed to see if it would reduce the damage. He also half-killed the monster itself to reduce its damage, but nothing worked. Even if he exposed only part of his body, the damage remained the same. Half-killing the monster did reduce the do-T damage, but it didn't yield anything useful. After several experiments, Taesan realized one thing. He needed to block the continuous damage without affecting the monster. This realization was more instinctual than theoretical. Taesan raided the store, buying and combining hundreds of potions, experimenting with various methods. Gold wasn't an issue. His relentless pursuit of skills had earned him so much gold that he couldn't spend it all in easy mode. Plus, there was almost nothing to buy in easy mode except for potions. He spent over a month just experimenting with potions. As a result, he discovered that he could block do-T damage over time damage with the potions of protection, blessing, and designated protection. There might have been other methods, but these three were the most reliable according to his research. Taesan blocked do-T damage that couldn't be prevented by blocking skills, and he got nothing out of it. Taesan calmly prepared for the next step. Even though he had wasted hundreds of thousands of gold and a month of effort, he cleaned up quickly. Taesan moved on to obtain other skills. During this time, he decided to keep using potions. They weren't overly expensive, and he thought they might still be useful in some situations. Taesan continued his potion experiments for a year. He nearly forgot the meaning of using potions, and by the time he used them almost unconsciously, he encountered a monster that used invisible attacks. This monster, in the form of a white cube, shot invisible blades whenever its body parts rotated. Taesan attempted to block those attacks. Blocking intangible attacks was something he had tried several times before, but he hadn't gained anything. However, the cube-shaped monster was one he'd never seen before. It was worth trying that one out. Taesan grasped the patterns of all the monster's attacks in the shape of its blades. This took 2 months, then he began to block the attacks. About 10 minutes later, suddenly the poison-spraying monster appeared. Taesan ignored it and blocked the cube-shaped monster's attacks since it couldn't inflict any damage while he was using the potions. And 7 minutes later, he obtained absolute protection. Effort, experimentation, and luck. Everything combined to yield a skill that was absolute protection. Pong, Taesan's sword trembled. He twisted the trajectory of the poisonous spray and blocked it, and 7 minutes passed. You successfully blocked attacks that inflict continuous damage and invisible attacks at the same time. You've obtained the special continuous action skill, Absolute Protection. Quagic. Along with the system window announcing the skill acquisition, Taesan took down the Rafflesia. The ghost muttered in a stunned voice. It really exists. What kind of skill is this? The ghost had perished while descending the labyrinth, but it wasn't due to a lack of ability. He had some confidence in himself. He believed he had understood much about the labyrinth and knew enough. However, as he spent more time with Taesan, that confidence was completely shattered. I'm speechless. I can see why the wizard said that, the ghost groaned. Can you show us quickly? I'm curious. I'm also curious. Although I know the labyrinth system, I've never seen someone obtain it like this. The ghost in Barkaza urged Taesan, who opened the skill window. Special continuous action skill, absolute protection. Proficiency, 1%. An invisible energy surrounds the user, automatically defending against continuous damage and invisible attacks. This intangible energy becomes stronger in proportion to the defense, attack, health, mana, and strength stats. Automatic defense skill. The ghost chuckled dryly. There were many defense skills in the labyrinth. Some were activation skills and some were in buff form. Although rare, there were even defense skills that could block a dragon's attack. These skills consumed a lot of resources, yet they were highly effective. Generally, the labyrinth skills demanded significant costs for greater achievements. The more potent the skill, the higher its mana consumption or the more severe its restrictions. The ghost was shocked by Taesan's learned skills mainly for that reason. The penalty was minimal compared to their effects, and absolute protection was at the pinnacle in that regard. It didn't consume any resources. Furthermore, it was an automatic activation skill, requiring no conscious effort. If such a level of effect could be achieved with low proficiency, it might evolve to automatically defend against all attacks as proficiency increased. There was a similar spell, likely a mid-tier spell and one of the more potent ones. With a mana consumption of 500 per minute, it wasn't an easy spell to use even for a seasoned labyrinth wizard. Barkaza chuckled softly. This is quite amusing. The ghost appeared to share a similar sentiment and spoke with a hint of discomfort. Is this something that can be obtained through the system? I've seen my master use skills several times, but even upon seeing it again, it's still strange. I can't accept it. Taesan gazed thoughtfully at the skill, absolute protection. It was undeniably a valuable skill. In his past life, he had shouted with joy upon acquiring it. But he couldn't fully utilize the skill. The reason was straightforward. It was because he was in easy mode. The effect of absolute protection was an invisible energy swirling around him. That energy was proportional to the user's stats. In easy mode, the stats are exceptionally weak. In his past life, the absolute protection he wielded was barely more effective than simple blocking. But now, things were different. In solo mode, he could wield absolute protection in its truest form. Thinking this way felt odd. In easy mode, he had deemed absolute protection to be a useless skill. He thought he couldn't replace it with his abilities and that it was worthless. But now, after overcoming what he lacked in his past life, he could fully use the skill. That fact was somewhat amusing. Taesan advanced through the rooms. Waiting for him, a Rafflesia attacked. An invisible tendril sprayed poison. At the moment the poison tried to reach Taesan, the invisible energy surrounding him moved. It blocked the poison and scattered it away. Without doing anything, Taesan blocked Rafflesia's attack. Guess this isn't an issue. His overwhelming stats allowed him to block the attack of the 57th floor monster. The invisible energy remained steady, showing no signs of depletion. With this level of strength, absolute protection wouldn't be wasted unnecessarily. Satisfied, Taesan continued down the labyrinth. Your level has increased. You have obtained a brilliant golden necklace. You have acquired Wu. Clearing the 57th floor raised his level to 117. His stats also increased significantly. He acquired good equipment as well. Anklet of the One Who Walked with the Wind. Agility plus 130, defense plus 150, movement speed plus 4%, an anklet used by a being who lived a free life alongside the wind, imbued with the will of freedom. Aside from helmets and boots, equipment rarely increased movement speed. This item broke that general rule. Its agility was high and its defense wasn't low either. On top of that, it had a valuable movement speed boost, making it an excellent piece of equipment. Brilliant golden necklace. A necklace made entirely of gold that shines brighter than anything in the world. Even a sage who has transcended material value would covet it. Its worth is immeasurable. It was a shop item. Equipment granted only upon reaching the 57th floor, worth well over 10,000 gold. You have used Wu, a leather armor made from the horn of a mystical deer and filled with ground giant's leather. Strength plus 200, defense plus 200, magic resistance plus 5, made from the leather of a giant. Renowned for its unparalleled durability, and blended with the horns of a deer residing in a deep spring. It boasts formidable defensive power but lacks in magic resistance. Magic resistance, it was a stat Taesan had never encountered before. The ghost clarified, it's exactly what it sounds like, resistance to magic. Just think of it as a magic-related stat that's added to equipment and you'll understand. That's quite beneficial. It effectively reduced magic damage by 5%. The journey through the 50th floors was nearing its end. This was clear from the quality of the equipment, which surpassed anything encountered previously. Pleased, Taesan made his way to the 58th floor. The ghost, as if just realizing something, remarked, now that I think about it, we're almost through the 50th floors. I had lost track amidst everything happening, returning to Earth. In acquiring the seemingly trivial skill, absolute protection, the ghost had lost sight of the current state of the labyrinth. I shouldn't be like this. The ghost regained its focus. It had been an adventurer who had delved into the deeper floors, strong and with a real chance of conquering the labyrinth. Taesan's abilities were indeed remarkable. The origins of all his skills and how he acquired them were mysteries to the ghost. Nevertheless, the ghost took pride in itself. It couldn't afford to be constantly astonished. He needed to maintain his composure and stay by Taesan's side. Taesan stepped onto the 58th floor. Quest start for the 58th floor. Defeat the boss on the 58th floor and proceed. Reward sword that guards the border of life and death. Hidden reward. Before moving on to the 58th floor, Taesan checked the community. The previously intense atmosphere had noticeably settled. Though posts were still being made rapidly, the conversations had become more orderly. Now we can finally have a bit of a chat. Taesan browsed through the community. Chapter 250, Community Players of Earth, Part 1, Kim Hweon Hard, Hugh. People have finally calmed down. She posted a message of relief. Until moments ago, the pace was so frenetic it was impossible to even pinpoint the person she wanted to address. The fervor had died down somewhat, no longer reaching its previous intensity. Normally, she would have demanded silence, but this time she had a reason to refrain. GM Yoongjun Hard, everyone who wanted to talk has had their say. It's about time things quieted down. After entering the labyrinth and returning, players were transported back to their original locations. For an American traveling in Korea, entering the labyrinth meant participating as a Korean player. There were also a few individuals from other countries among the Korean players. They fervently reached out in the community to ascertain the safety of their surviving family members. The leaders of each country weren't heartless enough to ignore them. Kim Hweon Hard, now that things have settled, shall we start inviting people? If anyone wants to join the conversation, please let me know. The community grew, facilitating conversations with people from various countries. It wouldn't just end with mere discussions. System End Oliver Khan Hard, it's me. Daniel Darman Hard, please include me too. Ikijo Aika Hard, me too. Amelia Aaron Solo, invite me too. And all your solo mode players. Lee Tion Solo, us too, we don't really talk much about that, but if you want. Kang Taesan Solo, are things sorted out? Kim Hweon Hard. Yes, Taesan, Kang Junhyuk Solo, I thought you were strategizing quietly, were you watching? Kang Taesan Solo, it seemed to have calmed down. If there's going to be a group chat, invite me too. Kim Hweon Hard. Sure, System End. Kim Hweon began organizing the participants. Representatives from other countries also selected and arranged their representatives. Kim Hweon Hard. Then I'll create it. Kim Hweon created a group chat. Do you accept the invitation? Taesan accepted. A group chat with dozens of people was created. Daniel Darman Hard, it's better now. We can have a relaxed conversation. Oliver Khan Hard, indeed, let me ask you something. Which country are you from? We are from the USA. The main topic was quickly brought up. Kim Hweon answered. Kim Hweon Hard, we are from Korea. Daniel Darman Hard, we are from France. Ikijo Aika Hard, we are from Japan. USA, Korea, France, Japan, people from 4 countries were gathered. Seeing their names, Taesan thought, as expected. The others were all people Taesan remembered. The only place directly influenced by the high gods was Korea. Other countries didn't seem to have changed much. Oliver Khan Hard. This is strange, I expected it, but it's peculiar to be able to talk with people from other countries while surviving. Kim Hweon Hard. Indeed, contact with other countries was entirely impossible. They even thought they were the only ones who had survived. But that was not the case. Many people were still alive around the world and they were descending their respective labyrinths. That fact gave them great strength. After a brief moment of reflection, they introduced themselves to each other. Oliver Khan Hard, I am the leader of the USA. As you can see, my name is Oliver Khan and I'm in my 40s. The people actively participating in this conversation are the leaders of each country, right? Kim Hweon Hard, that's correct. The others from different countries nodded in agreement. Oliver grumbled. Oliver Khan Hard. I don't know which bastard ruined the earth, but if they were going to open the community, they could at least have separated it by country. Why didn't they do that, unlike the difficulty levels? It's so confusing. Daniel Darman Hard, I agree. Kim Hweon Hard. Still, the conversations themselves are happening without issues. I was worried we might have to learn all the other languages, but fortunately that's not the case. Among the foreign players bound to Korea, some didn't know Korean. However, all of them were able to communicate without any problems. Although they had expected it to be possible, there was still a bit of anxiety about the unknown. Oliver Khan Hard, is this it? Where are the other people from other countries? Kim Hweon Hard, let's try calling them and see if they come. They left the group and called out to people in the community. 10 minutes later, they returned empty-handed. Oliver Khan Hard, more people died than I thought. As the community expanded, various channels similar to chat rooms emerged. There was the integrated community where all the people of Earth gathered. And there were national communities where people from each country gathered. The absence of a national community meant that there was no one to use it. In other words, that nation had been annihilated. And there were only about 100 national communities. Earth had a total of 206 countries. This meant that less than half had survived. It was expected. The monsters were strong and humans were weak. And in the midst of chaos, instead of uniting to survive, people distrusted each other and worked to fulfill their desires. It wasn't surprising that some nations were wiped out. But the shock of facing the actual outcome was different from what was anticipated. Daniel Darman Hard, it seems that people from other countries are talking among themselves, but more nations than expected refuse to cooperate, saying they don't trust us or they use their community but completely ignore our questions. Even among the survivors, not everyone was cooperative. Quite a few nations distrusted other countries, and there were nations that completely ignored others. Through the national community, people from different countries could enter and converse. Daniel Darman attempted to communicate within the Chinese community. However, no response came. Not a single person from China replied to him. It was as if they were unable to see him. It felt eerie. Oliver Kahn Hard. Forget about those who don't want to talk. What I want are people willing to unite for survival. Oliver's words were harsh. Taesan laughed. It reminded him of the past. Except for Kim Hweon, the other three had also conversed in this manner after the community expanded in his previous life. Oliver Kahn Hard, let's get serious from now on. Their conversation began. Oliver Kahn Hard. Has there been any major change in your labyrinth? Kim Hweon Hard. No, the labyrinth hasn't expanded or altered in structure. Oliver Kahn Hard. So we can't meet in the labyrinth. Only the community had opened up. The labyrinths remained separated by mode and country. Daniel Darman Hard. It seems we can only meet on Earth. Oliver Kahn Hard. Then what's important is our return. Are you and your country willing to cooperate? Kim Hweon Hard. Yes. Ikijo Aika Hard. I have no intention of refusing after coming this far. Oliver Kahn Hard. Good. Let's each share the number of survivors and their difficulty levels. It was a logical request. To unite for survival, understanding each other's strengths was essential. They began to share their numbers. Korea had a total of 46,000 survivors, with about 4,000 being hard mode players. Japan had a total of 520,000 survivors, with 120,000 in hard mode. The numbers for the USA were astonishing. Oliver Kahn Hard, 1.5 million hard mode players, a total of 12 million survivors. Kim Hweon Hard, that's a lot. Kim Hweon was astounded. The population of the USA was originally about 7 times that of Korea, yet the number of survivors was incomparable. Taesan was also surprised. In his past life, not that many had survived. Is it because the focus is on Korea? The High God's power was clearly being invested more in Korea than in his past life. It seemed that other countries had relatively more leeway compared to before. Kim Hweon Hard. There are so many of you, but Kim Hweon, unaware of this, was overwhelmed. Overall, there were far more survivors than in Korea. Oliver Kahn Hard. Korea has lost many. It must be tough. Ikijo Aika Hard. Stay strong. People left messages of sympathy. Kim Hweon had nothing to say, so she remained silent. Oliver Kahn Hard. Still, the fact that you've endured with so few means that those who survived must be strong. How far have your hard mode players progressed? We're at the 30th floor. Daniel Darman Hard. Oh, as expected of the USA, that's high. We're at the 28th floor. Ikijo Aika Hard. We're at the 27th floor. Kim Hweon Hard. Oh, Kim Hweon was flustered. Oliver Kahn asked with interest. Oliver Kahn Hard, what floor are you on? 30th, 32nd. Kim Hweon Hard. 38th floor. There was a brief silence after Kim Hweon's message. After a long pause, Oliver Kahn posted in shock. Oliver Kahn Hard, 38th floor. Is that true? You're not lying, right? Kim Hweon Hard. Why would I lie about this? If it were a lie, we wouldn't have survived. Oliver Kahn Hard. That's true, but how? No, more importantly, how did only 4,000 survive to the 38th floor? Kim Hweon Hard. Ah, that's, Kim Hweon spoke ambiguously. Kim Hweon Hard. It's a bit complicated to explain. Anyway, that's how it happened. Kim Hweon also realized belatedly that Korea was in a unique situation in many ways, and that Taesan was at the center of it, but it was awkward to mention this. Taesan was too special to talk about with people from other countries. Even if he explained, they wouldn't accept it and it would likely cause more conflict, so Kim Hweon didn't go into detail. Oliver Kahn Hard. Maybe it's because there are fewer people, that could be it. We have so many people that it actually made us safer. Kim Hweon Hard. If you need help with strategies, just ask. If it's okay, I'll answer. Oliver Kahn Hard. Thanks, let me ask right away. We're stuck on the strategy for the 30th floor, boss. Can you help? The conversation continued. People from France and Japan also joined seeking information. Oliver Kahn hard, so that's how it's done, not bad. Oliver Kahn posted a cheerful message, seemingly satisfied with the information he had received. Oliver Kahn hard, if you've already reached the 38th floor, you'll be a great help when we meet later. I'm looking forward to it. As the conversation was winding down, a certain woman interjected. Amelia Aaron's solo. Is it over? Amelia Aaron's solo. Boring and tedious. Listening to it was torture. Oliver Kahn hard, Amelia Aaron's solo. What, are you going to say something? At least I recognized your authority and kept quiet until the conversation was over, right? Oliver Kahn hard, sigh, do as you please. Oliver posted wearily. Although he controlled the American players as a leader, it seemed that the player named Amelia didn't follow his words well. Amelia Aaron's solo. In the end, only the strong can survive. And the strong only come from solo mode. Overwhelming confidence, and she had the power to match it. Amelia Aaron's solo, surviving with just 4,000 hard mode players means there are strong individuals. Who were the solo mode players invited earlier? Lee Taeyeon solo, who are you? Kang Junhyuk solo, who are you calling? Amelia Aaron's solo, as expected they're here, she continued. Amelia Aaron's solo, the strongest human in the world, the one recognized by a being called a god as strong. Lee Taeyeon solo, a god. Lee Taeyeon was the strongest solo mode player in Taesan's previous life. The reason was simple. She was the only solo mode player who had survived. She alone had cleared solo mode. But there was a time when she wasn't the strongest, when people from each world were descending into solo mode. At the time when others, besides Lee Taeyeon, were making significant progress, when they were still alive. Amelia Aaron, until her death in the labyrinth, she was the strongest solo mode player. Chapter 251. Community Players of Earth, Part 2. Lee Taeyeon solo, gods. Kang Junhyuk solo, acknowledged you. Lee Taeyeon and Kang Junhyuk expressed their surprise. Amelia laughed, clearly enjoying their reaction. Amelia Aaron's solo, so you're aware of the gods, you must be quite strong but not as strong as me. Oliver Kahn hard, Amelia Aaron, they are our allies, we cannot afford to be hostile. Amelia Aaron solo. Shut up, Oliver, you made a promise, remember. I will follow your orders as the leader, but don't interfere with discussions among solo mode players. Oliver Kahn hard, what a troublesome woman. Oliver posts, sounding exhausted. He seemed to have had a difficult time until now. Oliver Kahn hard, sorry, I made a promise beforehand. Think of it as dealing with a stubborn troublemaker. Oliver left after posting that message. Amelia remained unfazed. Amelia Aaron solo, how strong are you guys? Lee Taeyeon solo, we've just reached the 20th floor. 20th floor, this was when the quest against the spirits was underway. Taesan intended to offer some advice about it. It was not a low floor by any means. Compared to the Lee Taeyeon from his previous life, this was a remarkably fast pace, but Amelia was not surprised. Amelia Aaron solo. 20th floor, not bad, much better than the idiots in America. Kang Junhyuk solo, and you? Kang Junhyuk asked impulsively. He was confident in himself, but Amelia's tone, akin to praising a child's achievement, angered him. Amelia Aaron solo, me? Amelia spoke with confidence. Amelia Aaron solo, 35th floor. Lee Taeyeon solo, what? Kang Junhyuk solo, 35th floor. They were shocked. Amelia posted, clearly enjoying their reaction. Amelia Aaron solo, I am strong, much stronger than you. Her words were neither exaggeration nor lies. In solo mode, the deeper you went, the exponentially stronger you became. The two on the 20th floor were confident they could defeat dozens of their 10th floor selves. In other words, Amelia was so strong that she could easily defeat both Lee Taeyeon and Kang Junhyuk if they attacked her simultaneously. Being an adventurer on the 35th floor signified just that. Moreover, Amelia didn't have Taesan's support. This meant she had navigated the labyrinth solely with her own strength, discovering everything by herself. Taesan observed their conversation in silence. Amelia Aaron, she was undeniably the strongest solo mode player. No one could match her strength and no one could defeat her. Furthermore, she was distinct from Lee Taeyeon. She focused not only on breaking through the labyrinth but also on devising strategies. She gained a lot, so in terms of strength on the same floor, she was far superior to Lee Taeyeon. Taesan recalled Amelia's strength from his previous life. The power to obliterate mountains and collapse tidal waves single-handedly. She was a monster. Amelia Aaron solo. A god descended directly and acknowledged my strength, granting me their power. Taesan scrutinized her message. A god. In his previous life, he hadn't paid much attention to her words since he was in easy mode and had never encountered a god. But now his feelings were different. Kang Taesan solo, which god descended to you? Amelia Aaron solo, who are you? Kang Taesan solo, someone you wouldn't like, just answer. It's not hard, is it? Amelia Aaron solo, don't misunderstand, it's not because you asked that I'm answering, I was going to answer anyway. She responded with a sulky tone, seemingly upset about being outmaneuvered. Amelia Aaron Solo, the god of descent essence, the god of descent. Taesan hadn't encountered such a god while descending the labyrinth. Judging by Lee Taeyeon and Kang Junhyok's reactions, all the gods' altars in the labyrinth were in fixed locations. This meant that Amelia had not received recognition by clearing an altar, but that the god of descent had directly approached her. Ghost. Huh, why? Is it possible for a god to directly appear to an adventurer? Well, it's rare, but it happens, the ghost explained. Gods have very discerning eyes. They don't approach just because someone is talented. It's not only about talent, the person's ideology, values, and personality all must align with the gods. When a god personally descends, it means they don't want another god to take that person. It's extremely rare. Amelia seemed to be a perfect match for the god of descent. Amelia Aaron Solo, who are you? Which floor are you on? Kang Taesan Solo, I told you someone you wouldn't like. Amelia Aaron Solo, what kind of nonsense is that? Amelia was confused. Amelia Aaron Solo. Judging by the way you talk, you're around the mid-10 floor. I have no interest in talking to idiots. You said your names were Lee Taeyeon and Kang Junhyok, right? She lost interest in Taesan. Amelia Aaron Solo. Weaklings will just end up dead, but you two are different. If you need help, just ask. I'll share information you don't know, she spoke proudly. But Lee Taeyeon and Kang Junhyok's reactions were ambiguous. Kang Junhyok Solo, thanks. Lee Taeyeon Solo, thank you. Amelia Aaron Solo, why are your reactions like that? Shouldn't you be grateful and happy I'm offering to help? Amelia was puzzled. But Lee Taeyeon and Kang Junhyok couldn't accept it anyway because they didn't need Amelia's information. Lee Taeyeon Solo, Mr. Taesan, why aren't you saying anything? Kang Taesan Solo. Is there anything for me to say? Amelia Aaron Solo, what are you talking about? Kang Junhyok Solo, sorry, but we don't need your information. We already have someone who tells us. Amelia Aaron Solo. Are you saying this Taesan guy has gone further down than you? Her message conveyed a sense of caution. Amelia Aaron Solo, which floor are you on? Kang Taesan Solo, who knows, 35th floor. Taesan recalled what was there and posted, Kang Taesan Solo, 36th floor, you should be careful of one area there, it's something that hates people like you the most. Amelia Aaron Solo. What? Amelia seemed not to understand, but she would figure it out once she arrived. On the 36th floor there was an immortal. That hunchback who hated talented people would try to kill Amelia. From Taesan's memory, Amelia didn't die on the 36th floor, so she would probably manage without any issues. He didn't provide a detailed explanation, only giving her a rough warning. Amelia Aaron Solo, who are you? How far have you gone down? Answer me. Kang Taesan Solo, you'll find out soon. She was American. Normally, they wouldn't be able to meet until at least the next return. However, soon there would be a somewhat unique quest. A temporary space where people from different countries could meet. It was there that Amelia and Kang Taesan would meet. Kang Taesan Solo, well then, I'm off. Lee Taeyeon Solo, take care. Amelia Aaron Solo. Hey, ignoring her shout, Taesan turned off the community. There was no need to specify the exact floor. Stories that went beyond a certain level wouldn't be accepted by others. It would be quicker to show them directly when they met. By the way, the god of descent essence, Taesan asked the ghost about that name. The ghost hesitated before responding. How do you know that god? There's someone connected to him. Was that what you were asking about earlier, essence? I've met him before, the ghost began to explain. The god of descent essence, he has an altar on the 83rd floor, a deep level. Among the gods, he is particularly interested in mortals. If he finds someone to his liking, he provides full support. He's not a bad god, but the domain he governs makes him a bit tricky. Each god had their own domain. The god of victory, the god of struggle and death, the god of despair, each acted according to their domain. Essence was known as the god of descent. I've undergone his trial before and it was far from pleasant. If he takes a liking to you, he'll surely support you, but he's not a deity you'd wish to encounter. Really? Taesan reflected on his past experiences. They were soon to meet. And Amelia was bound to showcase the skills from her previous life. It seemed likely that the god of descent had orchestrated their meeting. Interesting. Reuniting with old acquaintances he thought he'd never see again was always a pleasure. Especially since Amelia was exceptional. If he had to choose the human he had clashed with the most, it would undoubtedly be her. The last I heard from her was on the 78th floor. He was unsure if she had perished or had been made an apostle by a god. Unlike Lee Taeyeon, she hadn't been forthcoming about her circumstances. He intended to uncover the truth moving forward. Taesan commenced his assault on the 58th floor. The monsters on this floor were deer with golden antlers. One lunged at Taesan, aiming to gore him with its antlers. You activated frost arrows. Dozens of frost arrows appeared instantaneously. The charging deer were impaled and slain. Taesan navigated through the labyrinth. As he descended, the monsters became more formidable, but Taesan's growth outpaced them significantly. He swiftly vanquished the boss of the 58th floor. The reward in the secret room was a magical staff, which he planned to offer as a tribute. Sword that guards the line of life. Attack power plus 140. A swordsman who constantly flirted with death. As a result, he wielded a weapon that perpetually straddled the line between life and death. When the line of life is activated, attack power increases by 50 for 10 seconds. It was a skill linked to the line of life, activated in moments of dire peril. Though he hadn't given it much thought, the line of life consistently activated when he faced formidable foes. Given this, the sword's attack power could reach 190 under specific conditions. It proved to be quite useful. You obtained the Skull Staff. Skull Staff, dark magic plus 50, mana plus 50. People speculated whether the remains of a great archmage retained magical powers. Upon the archmage's death, someone stole their remains, crafted them into a staff, and indeed the magic was real. A staff imbued with dark magic. Taesan knelt and prayed. A black space opened and the staff was transferred into it. I've offered quite a bit now. He had made many offerings to the demon god. It seemed about time for something to occur. Suddenly, as he harbored this thought, the space split open. Taesan observed the splitting space with calmness. Greetings, it's been a while. Indeed, it had been a long time since he last encountered the demon god. Despite his offerings, she hadn't appeared. Normally, gods remained elusive, but the demon god had always made an appearance, which was intriguing. I had some matters to attend to. The demon god spoke, looking down at him with a troubled expression. Something was clearly troubling her. Taesan could easily surmise what it was. Is it because of the high god's power? That's part of it. And also because of the gray power you obtained. She touched her hair, her expression complex. Chapter 252, Demon Realm, Part 1. Taesan realized why the demon god was looking at him with an uncomfortable expression. The power of the ancient god, although it bothers me greatly that you wield it, I understand, it's your power now, even they can't interfere with it anymore. The demon god twisted her hair around her finger. No, I should actually praise you. Thanks to you, one of the high gods won't show up here for a while, but that's different. The demon god's eyes narrowed. She gazed at Taesan as if inspecting his insides. Gray, the power on the boundary. Do you know what that means? Taesan shook his head. He knew it was a power that could interfere with the high gods, but he didn't know more than that. It's a power that can distort order, and it can also interfere with things beyond the order. Depending on how you handle it, it could be beneficial to us, or it could be the opposite. The gray power could actually benefit the high gods. Taesan frowned at those words. Is that so? Being on the boundary means you can go either way. Honestly, I'd like to seal it, but that's not possible, is it? No, it's not, Taesan spoke sharply. The boundary was a power unique to him. Not even the labyrinth system could understand it. He had no intention of discarding such a valuable card just because it was risky. The demon god, not meaning it seriously, ended the conversation with a grumble. I respect your opinion, handle it carefully. More importantly, is it possible to seal my power? If even the high gods can be banished, what can't be done? But the consumption of power is considerable, and as long as you are under the protection of the labyrinth system, it requires your consent. No other god will seal your power, so you don't need to worry about that. Barkaza was watching the conversation blankly. He couldn't easily accept the current situation. Barkaza was an old spirit. Although not many, there had been several incidents involving transcendence, so he knew to some extent what transcendence were. The demon god in front of him was a transcendent, a god. A mortal couldn't normally even witness their appearance. The words of transcendence were law to mortals, and if they wished for something, it would inevitably come to pass. In such matters, the circumstances or opinions of mortals were not considered. It was enforced like a law, and mortals had no choice but to be swept along. To transcendence, mortals were insignificant beings swept away by waves. Nothing more, but now the demon god was respecting a mortal's opinion and curbing her will. Moreover, she even made a request close to asking for caution. That fact was extremely confusing to Barkaza. Ignoring the confused Barkaza, the demon god continued. You can guess why I have descended, right? Taesan nodded. The demon god had always said it, the time was approaching. It was time to grant him something equivalent to mid-level magic. The demon god spoke. I will grant you a new black magic. Of course, there are conditions. I will give you a trial. What is it? I have been very busy lately. Truly, is that so? The demon god had appeared every time Taesan offered a tribute, but recently she had only taken the tributes without showing herself. It seemed to be due to the demon god's circumstances. The reason I have been busy, you also know it. The high gods, yes, they've been interfering excessively lately. It's been hard to stop them. The trial I will give you is related to them. Most of the recent trials have been related to them. The trials from the god of magic, the spirit god, and even the demon god were related to the high gods. There's no choice. Since you became involved, they've started moving in earnest. It means that the power you have is unexpectedly significant to them. The demon god spread her hand. The labyrinth receded. Walls flew far away, creating a dark space. I am the demon god, the god of the demons. A black sphere formed above the demon god's hand. There was a deep, dark darkness. The demon realm is the world of demons. Although I rule this place, there are those who reject my will. The demon god spoke with a frustrated expression. There are demons who believe in the old demon god who was banished when I became the demon god. Deal with them. Subquest started. Demon god. Lucifer wants to deal with the demons who believe in the old demon god who was banished. Condition: deal with those in the demon realm who believe in the old demon god. Reward: determined by the demon god based on your achievements. The old demon god. They were a transcendent being from birth. They are called the high gods. The old demon god was the same. He was a demon god from birth. Although he has now been banished and disappeared into the past, those who worship him still remain. Taesan read the quest window and asked, "The demon god is directly protecting the demon realm, right? Can't you handle this yourself?" Normally, I could. The old demon god has lost much of his influence since being banished from the demon realm. He isn't even a high god anymore, and dealing with his followers is not a problem. The demon god gave a bitter smile. But it's impossible. If I or my apostles who have directly received my power clash with those involved with the old demon god, it will cause problems. What kind of problems? The demon god pondered for a moment and then snapped her fingers. Instantly, the ghost and Barkaza disappeared. Don't panic, I just excluded them for a while. This is a story that's a bit sensitive for them to hear. The demon god scratched her cheek. The old demon god was literally the god of demons. The demon realm itself was made of his power. The demon god spoke in a small voice like an old man telling a tale. The demons wanted to banish the ferocious old demon god, so they forcibly made a young and small child a vessel for the demon god. A young and small child. Taesan looked at the demon god. With black hair and a face that still looked youthful, she didn't seem like an adult yet. However, since the child was not mentally complete, problems arose. The old demon god's power that spread throughout the demon realm couldn't be completely excluded. The remnants still remain. If I directly interact with them, parts of the demon realm will collapse. That's why I'm here. You haven't directly received my power. Taesan could wield black magic, but he wasn't an apostle of the demon god. He was excluded from the targets she mentioned. They wanted to escape from the old demon god and made me the demon god, but now, with time passing, they don't trust me and instead believe in the old demon god they themselves banished. It's quite ironic, the demon god grumbled. So will you accept? Yes, Taesan nodded. The demon god smiled contentedly and snapped her fingers again. The ghost and Barkaza, who had been banished, returned. Master, I would appreciate it if you would give a warning before banishing us. Too troublesome. The demon god responded briefly to the ghost's complaint and opened a space. A passage emitting thick demonic energy appeared. You can go through there. Is there no information? He couldn't go without knowing where to go or who they were. The demon god replied. Once you pass through the passage, your helper will be there. Ask them for the answers. I understand. Taesan stepped into the passage. The dark, thick energy leapt across space, leading Taesan to the demon realm. Tap. Taesan stepped onto the ground. The first feeling Taesan had upon entering the demon realm was darkness. It wasn't just the absence of light. The pervasive energy was thick and damp. It was the complete opposite of the brightly shining spirit world. He looked up at the sky. There was something similar to a sun, but its color was black, like the sun during an eclipse. This was the demon realm. As a spirit, it's my first time in the demon realm. Being by your side certainly brings new experiences, Barkaza chuckled. It wasn't a dissatisfied laugh, rather, he seemed satisfied with the current situation. Barkaza, I'm sorry, but you'll need to stay hidden. This was the demon realm. He didn't know how they would react to seeing a spirit. Barkaza seemed to understand and nodded. I suppose I have no choice. Call me if a battle starts. Barkaza disappeared. Taesan looked around. He saw a small village. The appearance of the buildings was not much different from those of medieval Earth. Taesan walked toward the village. The demon god had mentioned that there would be helpers. As he entered the village, he saw beings that appeared to be demons. It wasn't his first time seeing demons. He had seen them several times in Bequiseta and the labyrinth. They didn't look much different from humans. Except for the qualitatively different energy they exuded, they looked the same. The villagers looked at Taesan and bowed their heads. Taesan also bowed in return. They must have noticed that you aren't a demon, but they aren't hostile. Did the demon god inform them in advance? As he walked deeper into the village, he saw more demons. And they were all old. No matter how young they looked, they appeared to be over 70 if they were human. Is this some sort of nursing home? Why did they send me here? Taesan muttered as he walked further into the village. As he did, he felt a strong wave of power from within. Taesan's expression changed. It was quite strong. It was a level of power that could yield significant results even within the labyrinth. And the wave of that power felt strangely familiar. Taesan realized who the helper the demon god mentioned was. Are you the one the demon god spoke of? You're much stronger than I expected. Could you be from the labyrinth? The approaching demon looked at Taesan's face and was startled. Huh, I was wondering where you went and here you are. Taesan had fought several demons in the labyrinth. And the most memorable one was a demon named Quand, whom he fought on the 40th floor. He was strong but clumsy. Therefore, he made an unfair contract with the Guides of Sin, binding his soul to Patricia. Taesan broke the contract with soul ascension. The demon god took in Quand, whose soul was freed and who was dying, and now he stood before Taesan. Hello, Quand greeted him with a dumbfounded expression. Thinking about it, it makes sense. If the demon god were to request help from a labyrinth adventurer, it would be you. Quand scratched his cheek. The last scar he had seen on the young demon was no longer visible. Would you like to come inside for now? He gestured towards a building that looked like a cathedral. It wasn't the best to just stand and talk, so Taesan nodded. Quand led Taesan into the cathedral and to his office. As he served tea, he spoke. Come to think of it, I never got to thank you properly back then. Thank you. To Quand, Taesan was a benefactor. His soul had been bound by Patricia's contract. If things had continued, he would have lived as a slave to the Guides even after death. Taesan had resolved that. Thanks to you, I'm living here now. Have you given up on the labyrinth? Not exactly. But I failed once, didn't I? Quand handed him the tea. As he said, Quand had failed. He should have died long ago, but he survived thanks to a lot of luck and grace. I just find it hard to go back in. The demon god didn't recommend it either. Living like this isn't so bad. He sipped his tea and continued. This village takes care of demons who are too old to live on their own. I do various things with the princess here and it's pretty fun. It's also fulfilling. Princess? Yes, the princess. Oh, not the princess of the demon realm. She's from another world. She should be here soon. A certain demon crossed Taesan's mind. The office door opened. Quand, is the guest the demon god mentioned here? Yes, princess. I told you not to call me princess. Hello. The girl's face froze as she lowered her head. The ghost let out a sound. So it connects like this. Did the demon god plan this? Taesan spoke. It's been a while, Anacha. The first time Taesan received a trial from the demon god, he descended into a world called Vekveta. There the quest he received was to protect the princess of the demons. The princess of a collapsing world, Anacha, she was now standing before Taesan. Chapter 253, Demon Realm, Part 2. Her long, semi-wavy hair, grown down to her waist, swayed. Her eyes moved around restlessly, unable to find their path. Anacha had grown slightly more since Taesan's last memory of her. Not much time had passed, but perhaps due to the numerous events, she appeared oddly mature. The one the demon god mentioned, was you, Taesan? Hey, do you two know each other? Quand asked in surprise. Anacha nodded, flustered. Oh ho, how did you find out? Did the demon god give you a trial or something? Quand, you know Taesan too? Yes, Quand affirmed. I told you before, remember, the one who saved me in the labyrinth, that was Taesan. Anacha realized how they were connected. Quand was also amazed. So Taesan is the person the princess mentioned. Oh then, Quand, please be quiet. Anacha hastily stopped Quand's words. She took a deep breath and calmed herself. Taesan, it's been a long time. Yeah, nice to see you, she bowed respectfully. Amidst the confusion in her eyes, there was visible joy. Anacha seemed to have a lot to say to Taesan. But she restrained herself. Suppressing her desires, she sat down across from him and spoke. First, shall we exchange information? You came to the demon world on the demon god's request, right? Taesan nodded. And that request is to deal with those who believe in the old demon god. You know, the demon god appeared in our dreams yesterday and informed us as well. Yesterday? Anacha confirmed. Yes, yesterday. If it was yesterday, it was before Taesan received the demon god's quest. This meant the demon god had no doubt that Taesan would accept the quest. Continue. The demon god said a helper would come for you. We are that helper, she pointed to Quand. Quand smiled and raised his hand. Nice to meet you. Taesan looked at Quand. You've gotten weaker. It was evident from the first glance. Quand was once a strong adventurer who had surpassed the 50th floor, but now Quand's strength was only at the 20th floor level. Outwardly, he appeared immensely strong, but compared to the strength he once had, it was pitifully weak. I can't help it. You helped me break Patricia's contract, but I lost some power in the process. The demon god said there was nothing she could do since it was stolen. Taesan could guess the reason. Breaking Patricia's contract involved soul ascension. In other words, Taesan had taken some of Quand's power. It seemed he lost his strength as a result. I feel somewhat sorry. The strength of someone on the 50th floor had diminished to the 20th floor level. It must have been mentally exhausting, but Quand leisurely sipped his tea. It's disappointing, but not bad. Living peacefully like this is also nice. Thinking about it, Quand had been looking for someone to acknowledge him. That's why he got caught in the ridiculous contract of the guide. In such a situation, the demon god personally took care of him, and he met Anacha. Considering Anacha's personality, she wouldn't treat him badly. Since he didn't desire power, he seemed satisfied with the current situation. Even though I'm weaker, I can still hold my own in the demon world. Don't worry, I can survive on my own. Anacha, what about you? You don't need to worry about me either. Anacha spoke calmly. I painfully felt my helplessness back then and have since gained strength. I won't have any problems without your help, Taesan. In fact, the aura emanating from Anacha was significantly stronger than the last time he saw her. Although making meaningful progress in the labyrinth was difficult, she seemed capable of taking care of herself. Those who believe in the old demon god, there's been talk about them for a long time. Anacha continued as if reciting a fairy tale. A long time ago, there was a tyrannical demon god. Unable to tolerate his tyranny, a girl led the demons and drove the demon god away, becoming the demon god herself. They were thus banished from the demon world. However, those who believe in the old demon god have not disappeared. They reside in the abandoned land, waiting for their master to return. The abandoned land, there is a place in the demon world where demons cannot live, Quan said. A twisted place and a place where bizarre things exist. A sealed location for us. It's an old story that they are staying there. Taesan had an idea of where it was. The demon god had mentioned that during the process of banishing the old demon god, not all of his powers were expelled. It seemed that the space where the old demon god's powers remained was called the abandoned land. Then we should head there. Where is it? Beyond the demon king's castle. The demon king's castle? Taesan's eyes sparkled. Anacha nodded. Beyond the demon king's castle, the sealed northern end, that's the abandoned land. Once their destination was set, they began preparing to leave. Anacha and Quan gathered the village elders and spoke to them, while Taesan waited from a distance for their conversation to end. The demon king, Taesan muttered expectantly. It was said that the demon king destroyed the ghost's world. If he was strong enough to destroy a world, he must have been formidable. And this was the demon world, the stronghold of demons. How powerful would the demon king be? Perhaps he was an immortal. Facing a transcendent being directly was an experience in itself, so he looked forward to it. Ah, princess, I'm sorry, everyone. I have to leave now. Anacha apologized to the elders with a sorrowful face. The elders shook their heads. No, thanks to the princess's grace, we were able to live in our old bodies. You don't need to worry about us. I'm sorry. Anacha clasped her hands together. A pure black light emanated from her, enveloping the elders. Oh, vitality returned to the elders' faces. Their bent backs straightened and their white hair turned slightly black. After a bit more conversation, Anacha approached Taesan. Are you done? Yes, Anacha nodded. Let's move now. They began their journey in a carriage. The carriage moved using magic instead of horses, so no coachman was needed. Anacha, Quan, and Taesan sat inside the carriage. How far is it? It will take about 10 hours. 10 hours. It wasn't a short time. Taesan considered grabbing Quan and Anacha and running, but dismissed the thought. The demon god had called them helpers. It was unlikely that the trial was meant for Taesan to do everything alone. Anacha, who had been quiet, opened her mouth. How have you been since then, Taesan? I've been descending the labyrinth. How far did you go? The 58th floor. Oh wow, Quan exclaimed. You're fast as always. The last time Quan met Taesan, he was on the 40th floor. This meant he had descended 18 floors since then. At that pace, you'll soon meet the guide's leaders. Are you ready? It doesn't matter. He was prepared for it. What about you? Me, Anacha answered calmly to Taesan's question. She had settled in the demon world under the guidance of the demon god, but she didn't know what to do. Everyone she knew was dead. In the end, those she trusted betrayed her, and she parted ways without even saying goodbye to the one who protected her until the end. She was confused. She had survived, but it was survival without achieving anything she desired. It felt like walking aimlessly through an endless plain. The demon god cared for her, but this was an issue of her heart that even the demon god couldn't help with. So she decided to first find a purpose. While wandering around the demon world, they arrived at a village. It was a place where all the young people had left, leaving only the elderly to slowly die. She settled there. She found meaning in life by taking care of the elderly. In the midst of this, Quan appeared. She treated and cared for him as he was dying. Once he regained consciousness, Quan helped Anacha cultivate the village. While living like that, the demon god gave us an order. He said that soon a being would descend and that we should help him remove those who believe in the old demon god. This makes me feel sorry. In a way, it was because of Taesan that Anacha's small peace was broken. But Anacha shook her head. No, I'm actually happy now, she smiled brightly. Just the fact that I can see you again, Taesan, is a joy. It was a pure and clear smile, Quan whistled. The atmosphere is good, but there seems to be something we need to take care of first, princess. The carriage, moving with Quan's magic, stopped. Looking outside, they saw black beasts approaching the carriage. They're monsters, Anacha said. Monsters were beings similar to animals. They lived in the demon world and attacked passing demons like beasts. I'll take care of it. Taesan, you can stay put. Anacha stood up energetically. Princess, should I stay still too? Yes, I'll handle it alone. She stepped outside the carriage. The monsters were similar in shape to tigers. They approached Anicha slowly, baring their sharp teeth. Anicha waved her hand. A black wind gathered there. Crack! The wind swirled and shot out in all directions. The monsters leaped to dodge the blades. Anicha calmly controlled the wind. Boom! The wind condensed and spread out, pushing the monsters away. Then it grabbed and subdued them like a hand. Taesan watched with interest. The black wind Anicha controlled was Ser's black wind, a black magic that Taesan also possessed. However, Taesan couldn't control that black magic as well. Anicha was using the black wind to manage both offense and defense simultaneously. In terms of pure skill, her proficiency in black magic seemed higher than Taesan's. Crunch. The wind split the monsters apart. Having dealt with them all, she took a small breath and turned around with a smile. Are you all right? She looked like a child wanting to show off her growth. Taesan nodded. The carriage moved on. There was night in the demon world too. Soon it became dark. Quan stopped the carriage. It's getting dark, so let's rest for the night. Okay, they started preparing for a meal. As Anicha took out a pot, she chuckled. It reminds me of old times. Back then we had meals like this with you, Taesan. The situation is a bit different now. Although they were terrible and painful memories, I still enjoyed being with you, Taesan. She smiled. Suddenly, Anicha clapped her hands. Oh right, Taesan, can you use black magic? I can now. After clearing the quest on Vekveta, he could use black magic properly. Then to what extent can you control it? I can use many types of black magic, but my proficiency isn't very high. You activated Ser's black wind. A wind gathered above Taesan's hand. Unlike magic, black magic's power varied with the amount of magical energy consumed. But he couldn't do more than that. He couldn't control the black wind as freely as Anicha had just shown. His proficiency in black magic had reached a bottleneck. It seemed that only by becoming more skilled in its use could he increase his proficiency. As expected, black magic is originally for demons. It's hard for a human like you, Taesan, to master it. She brightened as if it were a good thing. In that case, if you don't mind, would you like to learn from me? The way you handle black magic can make a big difference. I'm okay with it, but are you? Of course I am. You saved me, Taesan. Think of it as my way of repaying you. I've already received a reward from the demon god. No, Anicha shook her head and smiled gently. This is a personal repayment from me. Chapter 254, Demon Realm Part 3. Then I'll leave it to you, Taesan accepted. Anicha joyfully began to explain. As you might have felt while using it, black magic is the power that summons the power of demons. Anicha waved her hand. Ser's black wind formed in her hand. The black wind gathered and gathered, forming the shape of a bird. Anicha gently extended her hand. The bird made of wind flew into the sky as if it were alive. Do you know what kind of beings demons are? I have a rough idea. He had heard about it from the ghost before. They were beings much weaker than gods but still strong from birth. They were under the demon god and lent their power through black magic, but they were not docile beings. Yes, we summon part of the power that demons handle. The more demonic energy we consume, the stronger the power becomes, but its limits are clear with just that. Taesan, could you tell me one of the black magic spells you possess? Decarabia's distorted vegetation. Taesan mentioned one black magic spell. Anicha admired it. Distorted vegetation, only a few among the guardians of the royal castle have that black magic. You possess it. Have you ever used it with the maximum demonic energy? Taesan nodded. Distorted vegetation was a black magic spell he used frequently. How was its power? It was decent. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't that great either. At Taesan's level, he could break and crush through. The fact that you call it decent means you haven't drawn out the true power of black magic. If you handle it properly, even you wouldn't be able to stop it easily. Oh, Taesan's eyes sparkled. If what she said was true, it meant the power would increase tremendously. What is the concept? Most black magic is summoning type. We create a passage to summon the power of the demon. However, the passages we create are too weak and inadequate for the demon's power to pass through, so we can only summon fragments. Thinking about it, there was such a description in the distorted vegetation spell. Summons the vegetation handled by the demon Decarabia. It seems only the fragments of the root that swallowed stars can be summoned. Only fragments of the root that swallowed stars could be summoned. He thought it was a matter of increasing proficiency, but it seemed to be a fundamental issue. So we strengthen the passage itself with demonic energy, we weave it densely and implement it firmly to summon the power handled by the demon as closely as possible. The passage itself, yes, it's not difficult. Anicha waved her hand. Black wind rose, its color and strength were deeper than what Taesan handled, like this. A complicated magic formula of demonic energy appeared where the wind arose. Try it, you can do it, Taesan, handling demonic energy. But Taesan couldn't do it. How do you handle demonic energy? Anicha was puzzled. Haven't you been handling black magic all this time? Think of it like that. I don't know. I just used it by consuming demonic energy. Is that possible? Anacha didn't understand Taesan's words. It meant there was a fundamental difference between them. Kwon, who had been quietly watching, intervened. An explanation is needed, princess. The author and I descended into a place called the labyrinth created by the gods, and there the concept of a system is applied. System? Yes. If you obtain power in the form of skills, you can naturally use it even if you don't know the usage method and rules. When I drove out the monster attacking the village, I used a strange skill. Think of it like that. That's very interesting. Using power without understanding it. Anacha couldn't easily accept it. Kwon turned his gaze to Taesan. It's faster if I explain. Can you use magic? Yes. In the case of magic, it's fine if you don't understand. The system of the labyrinth has set a precise usage method. The skills you handled are similar. Skills and magic both had precise effects. The timing of their use was important. But black magic is different. Unlike magic, black magic was a form of summoning the power of demons. It was necessary to learn how to create the passage itself. To do that, one had to control demonic energy perfectly. Taesan, summarizing his words, closed his eyes. He contemplated internally to feel the power embedded deep down, but he couldn't feel anything special. He knew something was embedded deep inside, but that was it. He didn't know how to handle it. Explaining this, Kwon scratched his cheek. You must be human. Wings were for birds. Even if humans suddenly gained wings, they couldn't fly without knowing how to use them. Even if they somehow learned how to use them, nothing would change. The human body was specialized for walking and running. Structurally, it couldn't glide in the sky. Magical energy was the same. Magical energy was for demons. Although Taesan gained strength with the help of the labyrinth, using it was a separate matter. We need to forcefully open the path. Then the structure should be changed to handle magical energy. Princess. I didn't understand well, but should we do it like we do with the kids? Anacha and Kwon approached Taesan and placed their hands on his back. What are you trying to do? Very rarely, there are kids among the demons who can't handle magical energy. In such cases, adults usually raise the magical energy and forcefully open the path, Kwon said with a serious face. I don't know how it will work since you're human, but let's try it. Close your mouth and focus internally. Taesan closed his eyes. Anacha and Kwon raised their magical energy. Boom. Their magical energy entered Taesan. It was a strange feeling to have someone else's power enter his body. The magical energy stirred inside and began to descend to the depths. Anacha and Kwon's faces stiffened. They inserted their magical energy into Taesan, trying to create a path toward his magical energy. Various abilities Taesan possessed were each settled within his body. The magical energy was located at the lowest and deepest place. As they descended to find the path, they could feel the powers Taesan possessed overall. The sensation they felt was immense. Their magical energy was merely a drifting small boat in a vast ocean. It was an immeasurable gap. Anacha was astonished. It was beyond the realm of mortals. Kwon bit his lip. Creating a path was usually not difficult. A demon of Kwon's level could create thousands in a day, but this was too vast. Even creating just one path in this immense place was daunting. Anacha and Kwon gritted their teeth and inserted their magical energy. Meanwhile, Taesan closed his eyes and focused on the deep magical energy. He felt their magical energy penetrating inward. It was a faint power, but it certainly descended towards the inside of Taesan, but it was insufficient. With that amount of power, it would dissipate before reaching Taesan's magical energy. So Taesan assisted. The magical energy was stuck deep inside like a sticky fluid. Taesan began to touch it. Little by little, but surely, he spread the waves as if tapping the water surface with a spoon. The sticky magical energy started to loosen bit by bit. At that moment, Taesan gathered his internal power and struck the magical energy. The magical energy exploded and surged upward. What was deep at the bottom rose up. Oh, Anacha involuntarily gasped. The massive magical energy tried to engulf her power like a tidal wave. She instinctively tried to escape in fear but controlled her mind and connected to the magical energy. A faint but definite path was formed. Black magic proficiency increased by 1%. You have acquired path implementation. Simultaneously, Anacha and Kwon stepped back. Gasp, gasp, gasp. Kwon coughed up blood. Anacha's face turned pale and her hands trembled. Are you okay? Not really. Anacha smiled bitterly. Taesan, you're truly a monster. Feeling sorry for overburdening them, Taesan handed over a stamina potion. Oh, it's been a while. Kwon drank the potion with a pleased face. His complexion slightly recovered. You have activated the domain of regeneration. Take some rest. I'll handle the carriage. Although he couldn't control it earlier, he now knew how to operate the carriage. After finishing the meal, Taesan got on the carriage, placed his hand on its wall, and injected magical energy. The carriage began to move swiftly. Remembering the sensation from before, Taesan opened the skill window. Black magic. Proficiency 40%. You can handle the magic of the demon god. By consuming magical energy, you can use black magic. Depending on the consumed magical energy, the effect of black magic can be somewhat drawn out. It is a state where you can handle the true power of black magic. The proficiency of black magic reached 40%. It seemed that opening the path in this way was the condition to reach 40%. At the same time, like with magic, he gained several auxiliary skills. Path implementation, proficiency. 1% implements a path to pass the power of demons using magical energy. It seems it still can't create a proper path. Seeing was believing, so Taesan immediately tried using magical energy. Wuheng. Magical energy materialized above Taesan's hand. It was a completely different and new sensation compared to mana. Taesan recalled how Anacha handled magical energy. He followed the implementation sequence and handled the magical energy to open the path. A different ominous sensation emanated from beyond the path. It was looking at Taesan. At the same time, the power of the demon sprang forth. You have activated Labyrinth's territory detection. Territory detection, a black magic that read everything and informed it within a certain range. The range was decent, but the information provided was too insufficient. It was black magic that he didn't use, overshadowed by insight and essence grasp, but this time was different. He could feel the swaying of the grass and its scent, the bloodthirsty battle where monsters trampled and bit each other. The direction and roughness of the gusting wind. It was as if he could see everything within the territory detection. It felt as if he were observing the entire world. It was a new sensation. Taesan, with a groan, once again implemented the path. The presence beyond the path recognized Taesan and power sprang forth. You have activated Decarabia's distorted vegetation. Boom. Decarabia's vegetation used to be a skill that filled the surrounding space with various roots, but this time it was different. A single massive root rose. A root as large as if it were embedded in the center of a planet shot up into the sky. Anacha was astonished. Huh, so massive. Anacha had seen demons handling Decarabia's distorted vegetation. They could also create paths like Taesan, but neither the size nor the power came close to half of Taesan's. At this size. It wasn't just a part of the root, it could have been the core root itself summoned. Taesan touched the root, it was solid. Certainly it was hard enough that even his power couldn't easily break it. Good, Taesan smiled. The new power of black magic he had gained was strong. In terms of sheer power, nothing could match it except high-level magic, but its drawbacks were also clear. It consumes more magical energy than I thought. Too much magical energy was consumed in implementing the path. He had used only 2 black magic spells, yet his magical energy was almost depleted. And the delay is long too. Whether it was because Taesan wasn't familiar with it or because it originally took that long, the implementation of the path itself took quite some time. Using it in the middle of a battle would be quite difficult. Moreover, it required significant concentration, which normally would make it hard to implement during a fight, but it wasn't a problem for Taesan. Special passive skill. Mental division. Proficiency 4%. You can see, act, and think about many things at once. The limit on the number of tasks is still defined. Thanks to mental division, which allowed him to do many things simultaneously, he could implement the path even while doing other things. But that too had its limits. When facing an enemy with whom he had to fight for his life, he wouldn't have the leisure to create a path during battle. And then, the gaze that focused on Taesan when he opened the path with black magic. It was probably the gaze of a demon. Until now, he couldn't feel it because he only summoned fragments, but now he was handling the full power of a demon. They began to recognize Taesan. Though they were beings under the demon god, the ghost had said they weren't gentle. Drawing their attention wasn't a good thing, but it was a significant enough change even with such risks. He was curious about how Marba's pitch-black wave had changed. Aside from meal and rest times, Taesan continuously practiced implementing the path. His magical energy rapidly decreased, but since they were in the demon world, the recovery rate was equally fast, so there was no problem with practice. I should have taught him later. Anacha, who couldn't talk much with Taesan because of it, murmured. Quan spoke reluctantly. Just approach and talk to him. No, that would be disturbing him. Princess, you're quite troublesome. Shut up. The carriage advanced silently. And they arrived at the Demon King's castle. Chapter 255, Demon Realm, Part 4. The Demon King's castle was magnificent. The walls were filled with smooth, jet-black colors, and the guards at the door seemed quite competent. Taesan approached with anticipation. The Demon King's castle, the place where the Demon King resided, an immortal or a transcendent being, perhaps an endlessly powerful mortal. Whatever it was, it wouldn't be weak, so he looked forward to it. Sir Taesan, from here on I will handle it. I'm sorry, but no matter what happens from here on, please don't move. Anacha bowed her head with a regretful look. Taesan nodded as he had no intention of moving first. The carriage stopped in front of the guards pointed their spears. Who goes there? Anacha and Quan stepped out of the carriage. The guard's face twisted momentarily upon seeing Anacha's face. Taesan frowned. The guard's face showed discomfort as he looked at Anacha. Princess of the destroyed Vekveta, what business do you have here? I came to see the Demon King. The Demon King. Why? The guard questioned Anacha, his attitude like that of an interrogating officer. Anacha continued, accustomed to such an attitude. I came by the order of the Demon God. The Demon God? The guard's face wavered. Anacha gave Taesan a subtle signal. Taesan revealed himself. Human, Kakakang, the spear moved. The guards looked at Taesan with wary eyes. Anacha calmed them down. He came here by the order of the Demon God. He is not our enemy. Wait, I will call someone to make a decision. One of the guards ran inside. The remaining guards kept their guard up, glaring at Taesan and Anacha. They didn't treat her like a princess, at least. Soon the guard returned with what seemed to be knights. Dressed in black armor, they were strong. Compared to the outside world, they were of great caliber, similar to Kwand at this point. Anacha. You said you came by the order of the Demon God. Yes, I have a request for the Demon King. Anacha spoke calmly. The knight in armor clicked his tongue. Really troublesome. Follow me? The knight turned roughly, showing no courtesy or hospitality. Anacha smiled faintly. Now, this way, Sir Taesan. Taesan followed, staring at the knights. Walking inside the Demon King's castle, he saw quite a few attendants and maids were working. They bowed when they saw the knight and then looked at Anacha with contempt. After greeting, they whispered. Their voices were very low, but Taesan's hearing could catch sounds from kilometers away. Really. Came again to seek favor from the Demon King, abandoned those she should protect and came here without shame. At least the words weren't favorable towards Anacha. The knight moving forward spat out. Should quietly guard the old people's village, using the demon god's name to cause trouble. Hey, Quan smiled at the corner of his mouth. Do you want to die? I'm holding back because of the situation, but even that has its limits. Suddenly, an aura burst out. The knights responded by exuding their own aura. Indeed, a lowly bloodline. How dare you reveal your aura inside the Demon King's castle? What do you think you're doing? That's my line. I understand you dislike the princess, but this is too much, isn't it? Quand gritted his teeth. If I hadn't lost my strength, you all would be dead. Talking nonsense, a failure who couldn't descend the labyrinth. The knight sneered at Quand. She is not a demon of the demon world, but a demon from another world. Originally, she should have been exiled and made a slave. We let her be peacefully because of the demon god's grace, but to use the demon god's name and keep approaching the Demon King's castle. Be grateful you're not in prison. The knight spoke harshly. You too, Quan, be content with the demon god's grace. Be thankful you're here despite your lowly bloodline. Haha, these bastards, really. Quan let out a hollow laugh. The knight's gaze turned to Taesan. You too, human. His fierce black eyes glared at Taesan. I won't touch you since you came by the order of the demon god, but if you cause trouble, I won't forgive you. Taesan quietly met his eyes. Eyes devoid of emotion. The knight got goosebumps for a moment. He suppressed the instinct to draw his sword and guided the way. They were led to an office. The knight left, saying he would inform the Demon King. Quand grumbled as he sat on the sofa. Princess, you could be more assertive. Since it's the demon god's order, they have to follow it unconditionally, so why are you so submissive? I can't help it. What they say is true, Anacha said bitterly. Unlike you, I'm not a demon of the demon world, I'm a foreigner here. Princess, Taesan fiddled with a teacup. It was adorned with all sorts of jewels. Even Taesan, who didn't know much about value, could tell it wasn't an ordinary item. It was an unnecessarily luxurious item, even for the Demon King's castle. You don't seem to be treated very well. Right? Quan nodded with a disgruntled face. Demons of the demon world value status. They despise demons from other worlds and look down on those who haven't inherited noble blood. Not much different from humans. It's a trait of those who claim to have intelligence. And the princess is in a peculiar situation. Quand clicked his tongue. The princess has noble blood, but being a demon from another world, the demons of the demon world look down on her. No, it's rather severe. They believe that even such noble blood is inferior to them because they are from the demon world. Taesan listened to Quand's story calmly. Moreover, she was directly chosen and summoned to the demon world by the demon god. Many are jealous because she was chosen by the demon god. They valued bloodlines and disdained those from other regions. Just like humans, Taesan's face turned cold. Not very interesting. I'm sorry, Sir Taesan. Anacha bowed her head deeply, her face filled with regret. Since you are not a demon, if we try to do something, they might interfere. That's why I asked you to stay quiet. It's not your fault. They waited, but even after an hour no one appeared. Quand laughed lightly. Really, how shameless, aren't they embarrassed? Sir Taesan, Quand. Anacha stood up with a flushed face. May I leave for a moment? Understanding her intention, Taesan nodded. Go ahead. Yes, Anacha left the room. Only Taesan and Quand remained. Quand spoke. Still, it's a relief. What is? It's the first time I've seen the princess so cheerful. Really, Yeah, I don't know about before I met her, but since I met the princess, she always had a shadow on her face. She smiled in front of other demons, but she looked depressed when she was alone. Honestly, I was a bit worried, but since you came, she's always seemed cheerful. Taesan, who was quietly listening to Kwand, asked, "Doesn't the demon god intervene?" The demon god. Lucifer personally summoned Anacha here. Given that she gave Taesan trials, she seemed to care for her a lot, but it didn't feel like she looked after her afterward. Kwand spoke as if it were obvious. The demon god is a transcendent being. We are all her children. Such a being wouldn't take sides with one existence, right? Unless there's a physical threat, she won't directly intervene. It was understandable. The demon god was literally their god. Even the demons who disliked Anacha still showed respect for the demon god. In such a situation, the demon god wouldn't favor Anacha just because she was persecuted. She wouldn't intervene unless there was a direct threat. Directly, that is, what does she want from me? The demon god would know that Taesan wouldn't give up, yet to show him this, it was hard to figure out what she wanted from him. Soon Anacha returned. Taesan looked at her. In the world she originally lived in, she lost everything due to her god. Family, acquaintances, everyone she knew died. In the end, she was even betrayed by those she trusted. And then she was summoned to the demon world, falling here alone without knowing anyone, and here too she was despised. For surviving alone, for not protecting those she was supposed to protect, how must she feel? Noticing Taesan's gaze, Anacha smiled faintly. "I'm okay." Her eyes looking at Taesan were full of trust. Because Sir Taesan is here. He had expectations of the Demon King's castle, but what he expected was power and strength. These political issues were not his concern. The door opened. The knight appeared. "Come, the Demon King is calling you. Enter here." A huge door greeted them. The knight who guided them warned, "The one here is the Demon King. If you do anything foolish, you will be punished. Be careful." Creak. The door opened. At the end of the long hallway, the Demon King sat on the throne. A man with black curly hair down to his neck looked at Taesan with a displeased face. Dozens of knights surrounded him. They weren't weak. All of them were at least on the 20th floor level. In the labyrinth, being at the 20th floor level meant having power close to the best in the world outside. There were dozens of such individuals, and the Demon King was far stronger than them. Even Kwand at his peak wouldn't be able to win. He had power surpassing the 50th floor level, but that was all. Taesan's eyes grew even colder. The Demon King looked at Anacha and spoke. "You came here by the order of the Demon God." "Yes," Anacha affirmed. The Demon King spoke again. "You're going to the Forsaken Land. You know what kind of place it is, right?" "I know well enough. Many demons left to destroy the filthy beings who believed in the old Demon God, but none of them returned." "How can I believe you won't be the same?" The Demon King's face showed annoyance. "The Demon God took special care of you. Even though it's the Demon God's order, I can't let you die in vain." The Demon King's lips twisted. "Perhaps she felt sorry for someone like you and sent someone down personally to take care of you." There was jealousy on his face. It was unpleasant that the demon god, whom he believed in, cared for a mere demon from another world. Taesan's face grew even colder. Everything he expected fell short. Anacha spoke with a calm face. "So what do you want from us? Prove your strength." Thud, the knights simultaneously struck their swords down. Their combined power pressed against Anacha, Kwand, and Taesan. The Demon King clenched his fist. The Demon King's power began to cover them. Anacha's face hardened and Kwand let out a hollow laugh. "Is this the reason it took so long? To create such a barrier that amplified their power by harmonizing with each other." The combined power of dozens of knights and the Demon King pressed down on Taesan's group. Anacha's face hardened and Kwand's body was also being pressed down. "If you can't withstand this, I'll tell the Demon God that you will die there. I'll ask her to have mercy on you." The Demon King laughed. He disliked Anacha. She was a demon from another world but was equal to the Demon King's bloodline. She was a threat to his legitimacy and succession, and she was favored by the Demon God more than the Demon King himself. The Demon King couldn't tolerate that. He believed he was the foremost servant of the Demon God. He was the most favored mortal of the Demon God and believed the Demon God prioritized him over the apostles. In such a situation, for the Demon God to personally save and bring a demon of the Demon King's bloodline from another world, the Demon King hated that. He wanted to make Anacha earn the Demon God's dislike somehow. There was no way Anacha could withstand his power, and the same was true for Kwand beside her. He didn't know the extent of the human's power who had come by the Demon God's order, but he believed it couldn't be stronger than the Demon King himself. He planned to crush them. Then he would tell the Demon God. He believed the Demon God couldn't ignore the words of the Demon King of the demon world. He intended to make Anacha earn the Demon God's disappointment somehow. While crafting his plan and feeling pleased, he noticed Taesan. The Demon King's face hardened slightly. In the midst of the pressure of power, Taesan was quietly looking at him. His face looked as if he didn't feel any burden. The Demon King increased his power and directed it towards Taesan. The power amplified within the barrier was strong enough to be felt as a burden even by the Demon King himself, but Taesan's expression didn't change. The Demon King's face wavered. Taesan muttered, "Everything is below my expectations." It wasn't interesting. The demons were no different from humans, and the Demon King was not stronger than his expectations. The ghost spoke. "The Demon King who destroyed my world was abnormally strong. Even at that level, it's not bad." To be honest, he wasn't wrong. Being at the level of the 50th floor in the labyrinth was equivalent to being the absolute ruler of a world. You just had too high expectations. Is that so? Taesan looked at the bewildered Demon King. You said to show my strength, right? I'll show you. Since he could handle demonic energy properly now, there was something he could do. Taesan drew up his demonic energy. The demonic energy he drew up began to mix with his aura. You have activated Apostle Transformation Myriad Souls. You have activated Realm's emotional disturbance. What? The Demon King widened his eyes. The barrier shattered like glass, and Taesan's aura spread out in waves.